Hey everyone, what is up, and welcome back for what I think is the finale of this chapter. Um, so the last episode was another crazy one. Um, I think the two big things that we should maybe like briefly recap. My last intro was kind of long. I'm going to try to not do another intro that long. But the two big events were Rika confronting Shion and attempting to inject her with the syringe. Um, and that fight does not go in Rika's favor, although Rika was weird in that fight. She was strangely skilled, right? I think it might just be, Rika having more experience in things than you would think, right? Like we've already anticipated, but there might be something going on there that we don't fully understand. Shion seemed to wonder if Rika had a twin, right? But anyways, Rika gets injected by this syringe. She ends up killing herself with a knife, but right before she dies, she starts to claw at her own throat, just like Tomatake did. So kind of calls into question what's going on with the syringe. I still don't think it's anything evil, to be honest. Maybe I have too much faith in Rika. I don't know. But it clearly has a really bad side effect, bare minimum. Um, but beyond that, we also see Oishi, and he's like starting to get suspicious of Shion, and I mean, we know they're going to be on her here soon. Um, so, that's going to happen. And then on top of that, you got the kind of like confirmation that Shion was actually born as Mion, and Mion was born as Shion. And they kind of switched places one day, and I'm guessing it was a day where they couldn't really turn things around after that. So if I had to guess, it was the day of the dragon tattoo and possibly the demon, like being given to Mion. Although it doesn't make a ton of sense to me because it really seems like Shion has that demon. Um, I don't know what's up with that. If that's the case, like if Mion was given it, because Shion seems to clearly have one. I mean, if it's something we've seen like Keiichi have, for example, unless he's secretly a Sonozaki heir, it's not like this. And same with Satoshi, it's not like this is something that's only unique to Sonozaki's, but or the Sonozaki heir specifically. But you got to wonder how she got it, why she's seemingly had it for so long. She's had it since 1982, bare minimum, to be clear. Um, that's the question. That's what I'm really wondering. Was she implanted with that demon? I don't really know. Like, what is going on there? I'm very curious to see how that plays out. But we're gonna go ahead and jump into this for now.
Yo! 皆さんまだ生きてる？
That's an evil start. Hey everyone, you still alive? That's crazy. That's actually insane. So, what is Satoko still in there too? Poor Satoko. Kimiyoshi was hanging from the collar with his head turned up to the ceiling. He didn't even move when I walked in. Maybe he's already dead. Satoko was lying on a cross-shaped restraining table. She glared at me with red and swollen eyes, which must have been that way from crying. I'd wanted to put her on that special restraining table to pound nails into her hands, but Satoko was too small for that. I walked up to Kimiyoshi and poked his body with my toe. There was no response.
君吉のおじいちゃん、死んだ？人殺し。人殺し。
Maybe Satoko had witnessed Kimiyoshi's last moments. I took a thick knife from the wall and stabbed Kimiyoshi with it. There was no response.
君吉のおじいちゃん、生きてるなら正直に生きてるって言ってくださいよ。死体のふりして逃げ出そうなんて通用しないから。
I walked over to the pulley that was suspending Kimiyoshi.
最終通告。生きてる？生きてるなら返事してね。
I paused just for a moment, then turned the pulley. Kimiyoshi's body swayed strangely in the air. It looked much more like a corpse like that. What a
どう
start.
してこんなことをするんですの、シオンさん。
What a start for this episode.
ん？ああ、なるほど。
The door to the huge cave was still open. I bet Satoko had talked to the one in the cell while I was gone. That's how she knows my name. Although, that's actually not my name at all.
シオンじゃなくて、私が本当のミオン。あんたたちがミオンだと思ってた方がシオン。 まあややこしいだろうから理解しなくて結構。よくもみんなをリカを。
I had allowed Satoko to watch me take care of Rika's body. Of course, I let her see Rika's neck, too.
フルでリカは自業自得。あいつは私を殺しに来たんだよ。返り討ちにしたのさ。そんなことあるわけありませんわ。リカがそんなことするわけない。信じないならそれでもいいよ。あんたにはどうでもいいことだし。私をどうするつもりなんですの？
Nothing good.
殺す。
Satoko's eyes went wide. She was expecting my answer, I'm sure, but she still looked shocked. I bet she didn't expect me to state it so openly. I heard the noise of something hitting iron bars echoing in the huge cave. Shion's voice echoed there as well. I answered her clearly.
今頃罪が分かったかい？あんたはそれをサトシ君の時にしなかった。だからサトシ君は虫けらのように殺されてしまったんだ。あんたはサトシ君を救える100億の瞬間を見捨てた、見殺した。そうさ、それがあんたの罪なのさ。
Before even finishing my sentence, I stabbed Satoko's right arm. Jesus, man. Her blood started to flow out. This was nothing compared to what happened to Rika Furude. I twisted the knife into Satoko's arm. She bit down hard, crying. Jesus Christ, man. This chapter has taken it up to a whole nother notch, I'm not gonna lie. Why couldn't you say that for Satoshi-kun? It's too late now. I was the one screaming like you back then, but no matter how loudly I screamed, it never reached them, spared him, or saved him. I want you to go through the same thing I did. I stabbed Satoko's arm repeatedly, but the knife kept hitting her bone. It didn't feel like I was cutting any of her flesh.
よーし、シオン。じゃあこうしよう。サトコの助け方を教えてあげよう。あんたはこれから1000回ごめんなさいって言う。言い終わったらサトコを解放する。どう？私は嘘をつかないよ。あんたがけじめをつけたってことをちゃんと理解してね。さあ、どうするの？ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめん
Shion started to apologize like a broken record. She's so stupid and honest. She's not even thinking of cheating. I bet Shion really will count to 1,000. I stabbed Satoko in the wrist. There I felt something hard. I guess I either crushed her bone or scraped it. It must have been extremely painful for her. But you don't say. Satoko screamed. Shion's voice got louder as if trying to overpower that scream.
泣くのはあんたの1000倍特許だね。泣けばニーニーが来てくれる？ニーニーがかけてきて私を跳ね飛ばしてあんたを助けてくれるのかな？
The knife was still in Satoko's wrist. I slid it toward her elbow. Jesus, man.
サトコ、私の声が聞こえる？
This is terrible.
聞いてる？聞けよこら！
I slapped her face several times and made her look at me.
あんたは自分の罪が分かってる？あんたの存在がどれほどにサトシ君を追い詰めていたか知っている？ニーニー、ニーニー。そう、あんたはニーニーって泣けばよかった。泣きさえすればいつもサトシ君がかばってくれた。でもね、サトシ君の負担ってものを考えたことがある？サトシ君はね、あんたのヒーローでなければ不死身でもない。あんたと同じね。傷つけば血も流れ、痛めばうめく、全く同じ人間なの。あんたの代わりに矢面に立ってくれたサトシ君の痛みをあんたは理解していたの？してない。 しようとさえしなかった。あんたはサトシ君に甘えてた。サトシ君に寄生していた。そうさ、サトシ君が傷ついて流すその血を舐めてお前は生きてきたのさ。そんな呪われた身でありながらこの後に及んでまだサトシ君の名を呼ぶのか。あんたはその罪を今から償うのさ。私の手によってね、好きなだけ泣き叫べばいい。そしていくら泣いてもサトシ君が助けに来てくれないことを知るがいい。
I'm sure this is exactly what Satoshi would have wanted.
そう、お前が追い詰めた、お前がいなくした、お前がサトシ君を殺してしまったんだ。
After telling her all I'd been wanting to, I exhaled roughly.
どうしたよ。右腕はもう感覚がない。じゃあ左腕にするか。
I stabbed her left arm repeatedly and her blood flowed out. But Satoko's reactions weren't fun anymore. She didn't cry or scream like she did before. That put me in a bad mood, so I stabbed the back of her left hand and twisted the knife again. But Satoko still just moaned. She didn't scream anymore.
どうしたの？叫ぶと私を喜ばすと思って。せめて悲鳴を絞って抵抗ってわけ。
To be fair, that is correct.
そりゃいいや。
Satoko was unfazed by my mad laughter. She looked at me with gritted teeth in resignation.
ええ、私もそう思ってましたのよ。
は？
私がニーニーを追い詰めたからいなくなってしまった。ニーニーがいなくなったその日にもう気づいてましたのよ。私が甘えていた。
Jesus. And then Jar just casually, saying, I knew. Of course I knew. Which is obviously, I mean, I never really pointed this out, but if you, based on chapter 3, we know that, right? We know that she felt like a burden, right? Jesus.
ニーニーのすねをかじり続けてしまった。ニーニーも辛かったはずなのに、私はニーニーにすがることをやめられなかった。その点につきましては、あなたの言う通りですわ。弁解の余地なんてありませんでしたよ。
I bet Shion wasn't expecting this, and it probably does not change anything. Satoko didn't sound as if she was mocking me or trying to please me. She spoke so naturally.
ちょっと意外だね。あんたが自分の罪に自覚があったとはね。
ニーニーはきっと帰ってきてくれる。いつかきっと帰ってくるんですの。でもね、帰ってきたら私もう一人前になっているところを見せるんですのよ。私もうニーニーに甘えない。背中に隠れたりしない。しっかりした一人前になったことを教えてあげるんですの。
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not going to go down like that. Even if he shows up, you're not getting the chance, and he's not showing up. But, God, I mean, we know that's what she's living for. That's what, God, I mean, like I said, literally, that's just what she's living for, right? Waiting for him to come back and to show she doesn't need him anymore.
帰ってきたらいいね。帰ってきたら。
I stabbed Satoko's arm in a mad frenzy, but she still didn't even scream. She bit down tightly and swallowed her pain instead.
ニーニーはきっと帰ってきてくれますの。絶対に帰ってきてくれますの。それまで待ってるんですのよ。そしてニーニーに今まで甘えてきて本当にごめんなさいって謝るんですの。それまで負けるものか。もう私は絶対にニーニーに甘えたりしないの。どんな苦難にもニーニーの助けを呼ばない。泣かない。叫ばない。泣いたらニーニーが来てしまう。だから私は一人で耐えてみせるんですのよ。
You can't deny her strength at this point, but...
上等抜かすな、小娘が。
私をいじめて楽しいならいくらでもお楽しみ遊ばせ。 でもね、それで私がニーニーに助けを求めたりするのを期待しているんでしたら、お気の毒ですわね。私は、泣かないんだから、絶対に。疑うなら好きなだけ試してみろ。ニーニーは見ててくれる。私が本当に我慢強くなって一人前になったことを見ててくれる。私が泣き虫じゃなくなったことを見ていてくれる。それをニーニーが見届けてくれたとき、きっとニーニーは帰ってきてくれるんですのよ。さあ、いくらでも試してみろ。私は泣かない。北条聡子がどれほどの強さを持つか、試してみろ。
Shion found one of the few people whose view of things is as warped as hers and, stabbed her repeatedly. They genuinely could have bonded. Like, seriously. If Shion hadn't blamed everything on Satoko and held that grudge, they have a lot kind of in common, honestly. Shit. I'll show her. Take that, and that, and that.
見てますわよね。聡子はこんなにも我慢強くなったんですのよ。もう何が起こってもへこたれませんの。
Bro, this is actually really hard.
こんなこと、この程度で、こんなくらいで、私は泣かない。助けを呼ばない。耐えられる。
Her voice getting weaker. Oh
耐
my.
えてみせる。
Jesus, man.
ニーニーが私に代わって傷ついてくれた痛みには、こんなの、はるかに及ばないんだから。
Shit. Why doesn't she feel the pain? Doesn't it hurt? There's no way it doesn't. I've been stabbing her so much and the knife went in so deep. Her blood is poured to the ground and I've been turning her flesh inside out. How can she still talk that way? Why doesn't she cry and scream? After Satoko said what she wanted to say, she shut her mouth. She didn't say a word after that. No matter how much I stabbed her, twisted the knife, tore at her, and ripped out her flesh, she didn't even make a sound. What in the world is this? This isn't the Satoko I know. Satoko was never as strong as this. If Satoko was this strong, she wouldn't have been a burden to Satoshi-kun. Why wasn't she as strong before? It's too late. Everything is too late. This idiot's maturity came far too late. Her blood made my hand slippery and I dropped the knife. Yeah, you properly butchered her. If I had to guess. I was covered in blood from head to toe. Satoko was still enduring the pain. Is she alive? Dude, I thought she was dead. She was enduring this cruelty so she could display her strength. I couldn't defeat Satoko. I couldn't crush her strength. Satoko had achieved her goal. She'd become independent, so she didn't need Satoshi-kun anymore. She still believes Satoshi-kun will come back one day. She looks forward to a day when she can show her brother how strong she had become. But Satoshi-kun hasn't seen any of that. Instead, I, who never even thought that Satoshi-kun would come back, was the one who witnessed her strength. What was I thinking? I thought Satoshi-kun was dead. No, I assumed he was. Why did I? I never even thought of waiting for him. I didn't believe he would come back. I didn't wait. I tried to avenge him, but I guess what I really did was forget about him. Satoko is different. She never even thought he was dead. No, maybe she did a little. But even so, she waited. She waited for a day when she could show him how much she'd grown. She waited patiently. What about me? I didn't do anything. I wanted to forget about my sadness, so I tried to find my enemy. So we're getting a rational Shion, for once? I became a demon, using revenge as an excuse, so that I didn't have to think like a human. I lost. I couldn't endure the pain of waiting for Satoshi-kun, so I chose to become a demon. In other words, I got rid of my soul. Soul that loved Satoshi-kun. In other words, I got rid of Satoshi-kun himself. Satoko won. While she had been gritting her teeth before, her mouth had gone slack. Her eyelids were half shut, but I could see her eyes a little. It looked like she was dreaming about something happy. Dude. Why do all the hardest scenes in this game involve Satoko? Bro. Jesus, man. Satoshi-kun was there in her eyes. Satoko endured until Satoshi-kun came for her. Satoko ran up to Satoshi-kun. She jumped onto him. Satoshi-kun hugged her, and they spun around. You can cry now. Satoshi-kun told Satoko that, and she cried very hard. Satoshi-kun rubbed her head so gently. We'll be together forever, he said, and continued to rub her head so gently. So gently. Satoshi-kun, I was waiting for you too. What meaningless words. He was already dead inside of me. I never believed in our reunion. How pitiful of me to say that, just because I saw Satoko and Satoshi-kun together again. As Satoshi-kun hugged Satoko, his eyes met mine. Shion, Satoshi-kun said. I asked you a favor. What favor? I tried to remember. What kind of favor did Satoshi-kun ask me? To take care of Satoko. Satoshi-kun looked at me so sadly because I couldn't remember. That sad look tore my heart to shreds. The blood flowing out from me wasn't as pretty as Satoko's blood. My blood was a slimy liquid, like vomit with filthy chunks of food in it. That was what filled my body.
たたりだろうと、この村の何者かの陰謀だろうと、僕は絶対に消えない。消されない。
消えないよ、サトシ君は。
消えないよ、サトコに。あのぬいぐるみを買ってやるまではね。もうすぐお給料がもらえることになってる。
Jesus Christ, man. I came in knowing we were gonna see some crazy, like some insanity, like literally. I didn't expect such like a heart-wrenching scene.
その日までは絶対に消えない。
Huh? A memory of the past. But when? Ah, of course. This is a memory of the day before last year's Watanagashi. Satoshi-kun called me on the phone then.
あ、おばさんが帰ってきたからもう切るよ。ミオン。
何?
His aunt was home, so I'm sure he wanted to hang up as quickly as possible. Satoshi-kun paused and spoke.
サトコのこと頼むからね。
My knees and elbows started to shake. My teeth chattered and my fingers were shivering. Satoshi-kun asked me to... I'm not gonna do the cry, but... What have I done? Couldn't wait for Satoshi-kun to come back, so I filled myself with evil thoughts and acted as I pleased. I didn't believe he'd ever return. I even forgot about Satoshi-kun's last request. How can I say I love him? I just wanted to forget about my feelings of loss, so I made myself all bloody. How can I welcome him back now? I didn't believe Satoshi-kun would come back. I didn't believe Satoshi-kun was alive. I didn't think he was alive, so I thought he was dead. I believed in his death. I killed him in myself. Nobody else did. I did that. But Satoko believed until the very end, and she was rewarded in her final moments. Satoko wasn't here anymore. She had no more need for her bloody, painful shell. But I'm still here, trapped in my bloody, tainted flesh. I'm going to rot inside of it. Satoshi-kun was waiting for both Satoko and me, but to be reunited with Satoshi-kun, we had to keep our promises. Satoko's promise was to be strong. Satoko kept that promise until the bitter end, and Satoshi-kun embraced her. My promise was to take care of Satoko for Satoshi-kun. I never kept the promise from the beginning. Therefore, Satoshi-kun will never embrace me. Even if I were to rub Satoko's wounds and ask her if they hurt, that wouldn't mean anything. That was when I felt something behind me. It wasn't Satoshi-kun or the thing that scared me before. I didn't know who it was. It was right there, criticizing me for my mistakes. Then, I finally realized it. That thing is me. I had always been there, standing behind myself and watching me break that promise. Satoshi-kun asked me to take care of Satoko, yet I didn't keep that promise. I had been watching that happen. It's kind of an interesting idea. I'm going to hold on to that and just keep moving. I cried and gave up on myself. Wait, Satoshi-kun gave up on me, and I gave up on myself. What will happen to me now? I don't want to be in this darkness. I don't want to be all bloody. Please don't leave me. If I give up on myself, what will happen to my body? There will be nothing left. The only thing I'll have left in me is an evil demon. Ah, I get it. I've known it for a long time now. I am nothing but a demon. A demon doesn't feel sad. A demon's heart can never be in pain. A demon doesn't cry. Shion was still apologizing. She believed that was the only way for her to save Satoko. Her voice was growing hoarse and weak.
Shion! もう数えなくていいよ。ご苦労さん。
I guess she realized what happened to Satoko. Shion cried in her cell.
鬼ってのも悪くないね。人が泣いたり叫んだりするのを見るのがこんなにも楽しいものだなんて知らなかったよ。
Literally just 30 seconds ago, she seemed like she was over this.
私も人の世ってやつを十分に楽しませてもらったからね。そのうち自らの命を絶って鬼の国へ帰らせてもらうよ。でも安心しな。その前にちゃんとあんたは殺していく。あんたを殺すために今があるんだもの。人を嘆かせて泣き声をすするのが私の鬼の優越だもんね。そうだ。あんたはケイちゃんが好きだったね。
Uh-oh.
よし。あんたの前でケイちゃんを引き裂いてあげるよ。これは極めつきだね。その後にあんたを殺し、私も殺そう。そうさ。鬼ヶ淵村は鬼の村。かつて鬼ヶ淵より湧き出した鬼が村を襲った伝承のある村。私もまた伝承の鬼たちのように猛威を振るい、そしてお社様の裁きを待とう。それでこそひなみ沢村にふさわしい災禍と言えるだろうね。
A suitable disaster? Word choice. Right. Did she do it for real?
ケイちゃんですか？
Just back to her acting normal. Okay, so just very briefly, I gotta talk about this. I mean, that was crazy. First of all, I mean, seeing that happen to Satoko was like, oh, that's heart-wrenching. Like, she did not deserve that. She, of course, did not deserve that. Just seeing her, like, be so strong is part of what made it so hard. I mean, it would have been hard even if she was crying and screaming the whole time, right? But her just, like, being like, no, you're right. My weakness is, like, why he vanished, right? And so I'm going to be strong for him until the day he comes back, right? I'm like, oh my goodness. She still has the determination through all of this, right? And it made a part of Shion realize, and I think it's pretty clear, there's like two sides of Shion right now. Obviously the crazy part, you know, the demon, and something more akin to the normal Shion. And we kind of see it there for a second. Right, like, where she was like, I broke my promise to Satoshi. He'll never embrace me now, right? I gave up on him. I killed him inside of me, right? Like, I never believed he would come back. So if Sachi gave up on me and I gave up on me, what's left for me? Just the demon, right? Like, to me, they seem like two very distinct kind of things. And honestly, you can kind of see that just in the ending of Chapter 2. And I mean, she literally warns Keiichi of that happening, right? Like, if you ever see me again, I'm the demon. Like, do not come out. But that was, I feel like, the first moment where we've really seen the older Shion, like, kind of come back. Like, the pre-demon Shion, right? But... So that was interesting. God. That scene was hard. That scene was hard. But I guess let's go ahead and move on now. Like, even just beyond how well written that scene was, there was some good things to kind of glean from it. But Rest in peace, Satoko.
私です。シオンです。電話、なかなか出なかったんで、お留守かと思って切ろうとしてたんですよ。
ごめん。ちょっとお風呂に入っててさ。
So this is the day when Keiichi like calls her out for not actually being for basically calls her out as sus, right? And is like, the only time you could have met with the mayor was right before he went missing, right? And like, you're not Shion, you're Mion, which is technically right. Technically. But, you know, not in the way he thought. But we're going to see that here. I do kind of wonder what her reaction is to that. So that's when she realizes everything's about to fall apart or what.
それでも、ご家族の方が電話を取りませんか？ひょっとして、ケイちゃんの家、今ご両親はお留守なんですか？
いや別に留守ってわけじゃ。そんなことより聞いたか、リカちゃんとサトコの件。
いえ、結局あの後どうなったんですか？見つかったんですか？
見つからなかった。
ケイちゃん、どうか気を落とさないで。
Acting like you didn't murder one of them and basically murder the other.
リカちゃんとサトコはさらわれたんだよな。
はい、それは間違いないでしょうね。
リカちゃんとサトコは、いや、ごめん。村長さんはさらわれてどうなったと思う？まだ生きてるんだろうか？
Nope. Keiichi sounded confused. He wanted to believe Satoko and Riko were still alive, which was why he was asking. Keiichi was just like Satoko. Unless the culprit was after money, the abductee would usually get killed right away. I'd never assumed they'd still be alive, but Keiichi was trying to hold on to a little hope. I could feel his strength. It was much greater than mine. I'm a demon, so I didn't come up with an excuse.
殺されちゃったんだと思います。
おい、そんなにあっさり。
人間をさらって、その状態を維持するのってとても大変なことだと思います。人質にするんでもない限り、用が済んだら殺しちゃうのが一番合理的じゃないかと。
殺しちゃうって、そんなにあっさり。人の命を何だと思ってやがるんだ。
恐ろしいことだとは思いますが、多分そうではないかと。
村長が殺されたということは、リカちゃんやサトコも同じように殺されたかもしれないということなのか？いや、そんなはずは。どっかのじじいとはわけが違うぞ。リカちゃんだぞ。サトコだぞ。そんなにあっさりと殺すはずは。
Keiichi was still refusing to believe what I said. He fought so hard because he didn't want to kill his friends within him. I wasn't like that. I killed Satoshi-kun within me so easily. I blamed Shion for not protecting Satoshi-kun, but I killed him so easily.
リカちゃんとサトコちゃんも同じだと思った方がいいでしょうね。
Keiichi roared and cried. It was like their deaths were physically agonizing to him.
どうしてだよ。どうして人をさらったり殺したりするんだよ。たたりだかなんだか知らないが、人の命ってのはそんなに安いのかよ。
I wonder if this gets to her literally at all.
あっさり消したり殺したり。
ええ、全くです。悪魔ですよね。
Oh, brother. I laughed at myself. I was sure Keiichi didn't notice.
なあ、シオン、教えてくれ。どうしてこのひなみ沢では綿流しの夜に人が死ななければならないことになってしまったんだ。
それは私が知りたいです。
もうダム計画との戦いは終わったんだぞ。なのにどうしてまだたたり足りないんだ。どうしてだよ。どうして。理由があるなら言ってみろよ。
ケイちゃんの気持ち、私もよくわかります。ダム闘争はとっくの昔に終わったんです。なのに毎年お社様のたたりという名の殺人と失踪が繰り返されている。なぜ？どうしてなんですか？全然関係ない人もいた。たたられるのに不相応な人だっていたのに、どうして？どうして？
それを俺が聞いてるんだ。
それを私だって知りたいんですよ。
I forgot the screaming match there. Of course, the curse of Oyashiro-sama never existed. It was just a bizarre environment that allowed people to kill in the name of Oyashiro-sama. The environment and nothing more. Nothing would have happened unless there were demons who danced within it.
いいですか？お社様のたたりなんて非現実的なものは初めから存在しません。ケイちゃんの言う通り、村の何者かがお社様のたたりというもっともらしい大義名分を利用して綿流しのたびに殺しと失踪を繰り返しているんです。奴らは狡猾でした。たたりを都合よく利用して村の旧敵を毎年2人ずつ消し去るシステムを構築していったんです。そしてこのシステムで今年は高野さんたちが殺された。
じゃあ2人で十分じゃねえかよ。どうして村長やリカちゃんやサトコまで殺されなくちゃならないんだよ。
And that's not even it.
それに俺は過去のことは今さらどうでもいいんだ。
Oh, you pissed her off.
リカちゃんとサトコがなぜ殺されなくちゃならなかったのか。どうしてなんだ。サトコには打ち明けてすらないんだぞ。どうしてサトコまで。どうしてなんだ。
Satoshi-kun was speaking through Keiichi's mouth. How could I respond? I didn't know what to say. I could only feel myself being stabbed by the sharpness of those
ケイ
words.
ちゃん、もういじめないでください。私だって何が何だかわからないんです。西宮殿に忍び込んだあの晩から全てが変わってしまった。あの晩、高野さんたちが死んだと聞き耳を疑いました。そしてすぐに気づいたんです。今度は自分が狙われる立場になったんだって。忍び込んだのは私とケイちゃんだけが都合よく許してもらえるわけがない。そう思った時、それがどれだけ心細くて恐ろしいことだったかケイちゃんにはわかりますよね。だから私、君吉のおじいちゃんに打ち明けたんです。
Okay, here it is.
君吉のおじいちゃん、怒らなかった。そしてにっこり笑って、しおんちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら本当に笑いながら任せなさいって。
It's funny, that part actually really isn't a lie. I remembered Uncle Kimiyoshi speaking ill of Satoshi-kun. I killed him, but everyone in Hinamizawa did that. I wasn't the only one at fault.
いつ村長に打ち明けたんだよ。ごめんな、シオン。悲しい気持ちのところに追い打ちをかけるようで、シオンは打ち明けたんだよな。君吉のおじいちゃん、つまり村長に。
はい。
いつ打ち明けたんだよ。
Keiichi's tone was becoming sharper. That edge was cruel, but it was a sharp conviction. It wasn't a dull edge that caused excessive pain. It had a clean, pleasant sharpness to it.
村長さんは重い痔を患ってて病院にかかっていたという話は知ってるか。
ケイちゃん、それが何か。
答えてくれ。知らないなら知らないと答えればいい。
痔だったのは知ってます。座る時とか辛そうでしたから。
病院に通ってたんだ。どこの病院かは知ってるよな。
ごめんなさい。それはちょっと知りませんけど。でもケイちゃん、それが一体何の。
担当直入に聞きたいんだ。シオンはいつ村長に打ち明けたんだ。どこで。大雑把でいいから教えてほしいんだ。
ケイちゃん、
From the other side of this,
なんでそんなことを。
this is very interesting because it feels like a lot more cunning, you know? Very good, Keiichi Maibara. You know who I am, don't you?
ありえないんだよ。村長が失踪した日、朝から消えるまでシオンには接触できる機会はありえないんだ。
そんな。
村長は朝一で誰にも内緒の大学病院へ一人で診察に出かけた。シオンは今この病院を知らないと言った。だから帰ってくるまで村長と接触することはできないはずだ。そうだろう。帰りの電車が事故で遅れたので 自宅に帰ってきたのは会合の始まる直前だった。つまり会合が始まるまでの時間にも打ち明ける時間的余裕はないんだ。シオンも一緒に会合に出たのか、そして会合の席上で打ち明けたのか。ここで打ち明けなきゃもう時間がないもんな。会合が終わった後、村長は帰宅途中で失踪するんだから。
実は会合にで。
あの日シオンが行くと言ったバイトすら君は欠勤してるんだ。もっと端的に言おう。君は俺と一緒に行った図書館以降誰にも目撃されていない。
ケイちゃん、
その時シオンは綿流しの翌日に失踪したんだ。
Bingo, Kei-chan. I'm impressed.
大石さんは君がすでに失踪していると言っているんだ。でもシオンはこうして毎晩俺に電話をかけてきてくれただろう。頼むシオン、俺が言ったことが間違ってるならそうだと言ってくれ。
Dang, I got goosebumps like crazy. Holy. No, this is actually so interesting on the other side, just seeing him like slowly piecing it together and cornering her.
シオン、頼むから。
Corner me even further. Corner me so the demon inside can't come up with excuses, so that it can't escape.
シオン、お前は村長に会ってなんかないんだ。もし会ったとしたなら。
The only time I could possibly have seen him on that day was...
村長が会合を終えた後、すなわち失踪する直前、もしくは失踪してからしかありえないんだ。
And it seems she's actually kind of pleased with this result. Like I said, there's that part inside of her that does not want to be this demon anymore, but it's like too far gone. I remember how creepy that was the first time we heard it. Goodness. Click. I screeched and screeched with laughter, then slammed down the phone. Very good, Kei-chan. That's right, it's me. I'm the one. Hurry and corner me. Hurry, let me be free. Was he going to tell the police, or was he going to come here by himself? I wondered which it would be. If the police came, I'd struggle as much as I was able. I'd see how good Oishi would be at catching a demon. If Kei-chan came here alone, that wouldn't be smart of him. He couldn't complain about being eaten by a demon then. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him gruesomely while Shion watches. Therefore, Kei-chan, you shouldn't hold back. I only ever thought you were just a funny guy. I never thought I could expect so much from you. She got outplayed and was not ready for it. So is this all going to be one big chapter, or are we going into, like, tips now? I feel like we would have seen the tip pop up by now. Yeah, we would have. Okay, so... yeah, that means it's... okay. Whole nother scene, that's fine, though. It's actually kind of interesting. Maybe it's just going to be one big chapter to close things out. Maybe there's two, though, actually. That wouldn't shock me, now that I think about it. I mean, it could still be one big chapter, but I'm thinking now maybe they're going to do her getting cornered and then, like, the torture dungeon scene as one big thing. And if Shion is alive afterwards, that's a big if, which I still think... I'm starting to... I'm going to say I think it was actually Shion that lived, right? Let's say Shion is alive afterwards and stabs Keiichi. That could be its own thing. It could also be one really big chapter, but this already seems like it's likely to be a pretty big chapter, so I don't know. Okay, so I split the episode here and came back like a day or two later. I think it's been 2 days. We're gonna finish this up here. I don't think that I remember what happened, but I just figured I'd let you guys know that there was a, you know, like 2 days between these episodes in case I do somehow forget something. Anyways, it took them a long time to come for me. I had to wait until the following morning. I opened the gate without checking who was ringing the doorbell. I didn't even care who it was. If it was the police, that'd be fine with me. If it was Kei-chan, could he defeat me? Keiichi and Rena were there.
こんな時間に珍しいね。二人とも学校は
学校は休んだよ。
ケイちゃんはともかくレナも二人とも不良なんだからな。
I
立ち
laughed.
話もなんでしょ。入りなよ。
I didn't think Rena would come. I thought it would be either the police or Kei-chan alone. Turns out, it's Keiichi, Rena, and the police. I'll try tricking Kei-chan into coming with me to the underground storehouse. Rena, why don't you try to figure out what I'm attempting to do and stop me? You too, Kei-chan. If you figured out I was Shion, why don't you try to figure out the rest? I will act like a demon. I will struggle until the very last moment, so don't hold back. Please don't hesitate to kill a filthy demon like me. Yeah, I mean, that was the big thing that we've seen here was, you know, obviously, especially, you see it a lot when she killed Satoko, there was, like, a part of her, it feels like it's two different personalities. Part of her that's, like, remains logical and realize what she's done is, like, very wrong. And then part of her that revels in it and loves everything that she's doing, right? And that was an example of, you know, the normal side.
まず謝ることがある。
ケイちゃんが何を？
綿流しの晩、
Yeah, this apology did not reach the right ears.
俺は神社の祭具殿に入ったんだ。
I didn't expect this to start with an apology. Okay, so he admitted his sin of entering the ritual storehouse. I guess that was manly of him. I don't even care if the storehouse is forbidden anymore. Whatever. A rule came from those who believed it was even a sacred place at all.
ミオ、おとといリカちゃんとサトコを呼んだろ。
覚えはないけど、そう思うに足る根拠があるなら聞かせてもらえる？
夕方過ぎのお夕食前の時間、リカちゃんが来たはずだよ。お醤油の大瓶を持って。
You know, looking at it now, like, from Shion's perspective, that is kind of crazy that they got that.
お裾分けしてもらいに。
Rena spoke with confidence. She wasn't even trying to gauge my reaction. She was simply telling me the truth. That cleverness was very pleasant to see.
どうしてそう思う？
そんなに難しい話じゃない。みーちゃんも見たでしょ？リカちゃんの部屋。冷ややっこがあるのに、お醤油がなかった。そして、流しの下にあるはずの醤油の大瓶も、瓶ごとなかった。
何それ？それが私のとこへ来る理由になるわけ？
Rena sure is sharp. I tried to beat around the bush, but she was confident in her conclusions. She was cornering me. She was doing such a great job, too. It really put me at ease. Okay, demon. Rena knows what she's talking about. What kind of excuse are you going to come up with now?
長くなるから説明は省くけど、冷蔵庫の中身がみーちゃんの呼び出した話の内容まで如実に物語っちゃってるの。
There it is. This game is over. Rena, I was right about you. I don't like you. You really are just too sharp. Shion is so obtuse that she never even recognized this side of you.
これは。
Yeah, she is very sharp. She just using her name in the third person, or is there a reason that they say Shion was so obtuse she never even recognized this side of you? I don't know. I think it's obvious that I'm alluding that, you know, I think I've thought for a while it might be something like an intelligent parasite, right? But it just seems like there's conversations going on in their heads. At the very least, there's many possible explanations for that, right? But it happens too often. Just another example.
とんだ名探偵が身近にいたもんだよ。まさか冷蔵庫の中身だけで電話の内容まで見破るとは。参ったな。参った参った。
I laughed like crazy. I laughed because I was having so much fun. I sensed the poison inside of my stomach dissipating and felt free and refreshed.
ミオ、警察はもうとっくにお前を疑ってるんだ。この家も大石さんの部下が踏み込もうと 今も様子を伺ってる。
Curious to see all the things that Shion tells Keiichi here. What is her perspective on them? Was she just lying to him when she said things like the Sonozakis weren't involved? Or was that her, like, final revelation? Or opinion, at least. Keiichi was threatening me. He was telling me I couldn't run or resist, so I should just surrender and accept my fate. You aren't doing that intensely enough, Keiichi. Shouldn't you grab my collar and knock me to the ground? Today is the day I'm prepared to die. After that, they went easy, because they just wanted to know the reason why Mion committed such crimes. You all are being too lenient about this. I'm a demon. I'm a murderer. Are you saying that if you can understand the reasoning, murder is okay? A demon is a demon. Well, you might need to reread that sentence in your head. I'm just saying. Because there's a certain somebody that you really like that is almost certainly a murderer. And that is basically exactly how you treated them. Like, you understood the reason, so you didn't view it as such a crime, something they deserved to be punished for. I mean, you know, you can argue, you know, death wasn't fair. Assuming that is what happened to Satoshi. Assuming Satoshi killed his aunt, and assuming that he was killed, right? You know, that was certainly her assumptions. But, you know, she was like, what crime did he commit to deserve that? I'm like, murder, but, you know. Anyways, a demon is a demon. A murderer is a murderer. Whether their motive is to have fun, to live, or to take revenge, that makes no difference. Why do you even want to know that? Why don't you just tackle me and take me to the police? Look, there. The demon is trying to deceive you.
初めてご挨拶申し上げます。園崎本家当主跡継ぎミオンでございます。本日はようこそ園崎本家においでくださいました。
When they do like the reintroduction.
当主お寮に代わりまして皆様にご挨拶申し上げます。皆様におかれましてはいろいろお尋ねになりたいことがおありの様子。私にお話しできることでしたら包み隠さずお話ししたいと存じます。
So Cap. I then told them about the strange events that led to Onigafuchi village becoming Hinamizawa, which Takano-san had told me about before. About half of it was the truth, but the other half was completely made up. I just made it sound like it was only natural that their best friend committed such a gruesome crime. Keiichi and Rena were both overwhelmed by the history of Onigafuchi village, which was swallowed by this gloomy fate. Oh well, I guess I made it sound interesting enough. I'm sure they enjoyed hearing me tell the story, but you know, I'm the one who committed the incidents that happened in the present time. What was the point in listening to those old folk tales? Are you thinking it will make your best friend's crime easier to swallow? You're just trying to satisfy yourselves. By the way, I mean, this is pretty obvious, but it's relevant right here. About half of what she said is the truth, the other half is completely made up. Right? That doesn't shock me. So if we were to go through and look at that chapter 2, like, basically, maybe I should go through and look at everything she says here again, right? And maybe pick out some things that might be true versus other things that might be lies, you know? You're just trying to satisfy yourselves. I'm a demon. I'm a murderer. I have sinned. Those old folk tales have nothing to do with the crimes I've committed. The way those two listened to me so intensely almost made it fun. I told them that people used to make canned human meat and conducted gruesome research during the war. Those were things Takano-san told me. Hey, you two. Haven't you realized yet? Haven't you realized that what I'm talking about has nothing to do with what we're dealing with right now? You both look so serious. You two are such fools.
ひなみざわ村を再び鬼ヶ淵村のように崇められるに足る神聖な存在に。それが我ら鬼ヶ淵村の末裔の悲願であり、園崎本家の鬼を継ぐ者の宿命なのです。
鬼を継ぐ者？
我が園崎本家は代々当主の名に鬼の一字を加える習慣があるのです。私の名前を手のひらにでも書いていただければ一目瞭然かと。
Keiichi tried to write Mion on his palm.
あ、本当だ。鬼という文字が含まれてる。
名前だけではありませんよ。この体にも鬼が刻まれているのです。
I stood up and made to show my bare back. Of course, I don't actually have a tattoo there.
いいよ、みーちゃん。見せる必要なんて全然ない。
ありがとう。
I laughed a little. They must really believe that I'm their best friend, Mion. My goodness, the demon has won already. we're doing so well at the beginning, too. I eventually sat back down after I finished telling my made-up tearjerker stories. It's your loss if you all shed any tears now. I looked at Keiichi. He wasn't crying, but he was overcome by emotion. I looked at Rena. Surprisingly, she still maintained an aggressive look, showing me her will to fight.
でも、みーちゃんは、リカちゃんとサトコちゃんを、殺したんだよね。
Yeah, she basically said, cool story, but you killed our friends. You're good, Rena. You know what I just told you isn't an excuse for murder. You usually act like such a goofball, but that's not how you really are. You sure are something. You're far sharper than Shion.
他の人のことは殺してもいいとも言わないよ。でも、とにかくみーちゃんは、リカちゃんとサトコちゃんを、殺した。
弁解はしないよ。私には鬼が宿ってる。名前にも体にも心にも。でも手を下したのは鬼じゃない。園崎ミオン。私本人。
Technically true.
ミオンが望んだからリカちゃんとサトコが死んだ。それは変わらない。レナの言う通りだよ。
Come on, Rena. Try to figure out who I really am. You still believe Shion, my victim, is the real culprit. Or Shion, I'm making Rena believe that you're responsible. That was it for Rena, though. She couldn't figure out I was Mion.
自首しよう。
Rena spoke to Mion.
私たちも一緒に行くよ。親友を一人きりになんか絶対にしない。
泣くことレナには勝てないわ。
Too bad, Rena. I've won.
自分で自分の罪、どのくらいになるかよくわかってる。
I still can't believe that they actually, let Keiichi go alone with a known murderer somewhere, into the woods. Even in the moment, that was kind of are we for real right now? Obviously, I didn't expect it to be as crazy as it was, right? I didn't expect the murder dungeon and everything, but, come on. We really thought Keiichi was just gonna, leave there alive? Are we for real?
たとえ自首が認められても、多分もうここに帰ってくることもないと思う。だから、最後にわがままを聞いてほしいな。
何かな。
30分でいいから、ケイちゃんと二人きりにしてほしい。
Keiichi looked startled to suddenly hear his name. You're so insensitive, Keiichi. That's what made my sister cry.
ケイチくん、どうかな。ケイチくんが嫌なら、無理にとは言えない。
Rose should not have done it.
そうだね。嫌ならそれでもいいよ。私は鬼だもの。ケイちゃんはよそから引っ越してきた、正真正銘の人間。相入れることなんて、お社様が実在して仲介してくれない限り、絶対にない。
Keiichi hesitated a little. Come on, Keichan, condemn me. Condemn me, and tell me you'd never go. I obviously knew that was coming, but it's still are we for real?
いいぜ。
ありがとう。
Fool!
私からもありがとうを言うよ。ケイチくん。
Rena stood up. As promised, she made to leave.
あ、いいよ、レナ。ここで待っててくれれば。ケイちゃんとは庭をぐるりと回りたいだけだから。退屈だったら私の部屋へ行けばいい。漫画とか好きに読んでていいよ。あ、なんだったらお気に入りの単行本丸ごと持ってってもいい。
嫌だよ。みーちゃんの本はみーちゃんのものだもの。勝手にレナの家に持って帰れない。
あんたはこんな時に限っていい子なんだから。
Am I wrong for saying I would totally take those manga at that point? Am I wrong for that? Maybe I'm wrong for that. I got a friend that's going to jail and they're like, you know what? You can have my video game library. I wouldn't be like, no, no, no. You're gonna need it in jail for the rest of your life. I'd be like, at least someone's using it. And maybe it's a little sentimental, right? Like, before he was a murderer, this was my friend's game. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy for that. I took Rena's head and rubbed it like Satoshi-kun used to do to me. Honestly,
じゃあ、行こう。
it's like the closest you could have been to giving a, like, direct sign.
ケイちゃん。
The game was over. Too bad, Rena. At least this was more fun than if Kei-chan came alone. If he did, he could have asked me to run away with him after hearing my stories. Rena's eyes were like those of a judge. In those eyes, I sensed both affection and observance. I said 30 minutes, so she would probably only wait for 30 minutes. If I took even a second longer, she'd call Oishi. I'm a little disappointed. Rena still thinks I'm Mion. She didn't manage to see through me. I thought someone like her would see the demon in me. I guess I was wrong. Too bad. Keiichi followed me after putting his shoes on.
腕組んでもいいかな。
Such a humble request.
別に構わないぞ。
Rose sold the bag here, he don't even know. I took Keiichi's arm. It was as warm as Satoshi-kun's. I felt a little bewildered.
私に腕を組まれたら、なんだか緊張しちゃわない？例えば、急に関節技を決められちゃうんじゃないかな、なんて思ったりとか。
姉妹揃って同じことを言うんだな。思わないよ。全然。
He was remembering the time when I'd held his arm in town.
シオンもケイちゃんのことが好きだったみたい。
そうなんだ。
I told him how my sister felt. Evil. Evil. I feel like I actually explicitly remember bringing up, like, that line of dialogue, like, at least it might have been in my notes. I'm not going to pull up the notes for that one. That one's so minor. Right, but I was like, that line could easily literally mean the person we know as Mion, right? And that would make a lot of sense, right? God. Kind of messed up from the other side. Shion was with Satoshi-kun for a long time, but what they had was friendship. They never had anything more than that. That was why she fell in love with Keiichi. If I were in her position, I would also have fallen in love with him. If Shion was able to fall in love with him, then I could fall in love with him too. Keiichi smiled gently. I almost saw Satoshi-kun in that smile. The Keiichi I knew was worthless and superficial. I never realized he could smile like Satoshi-kun.
ミオンとシオンは仲は良かったんだろ？
Don't get me wrong, Keiichi's not always the greatest person ever, but y'all were in some crazy circumstances. I feel like you can't really judge a person's normal personality by how they act when they think they're literally going to get murdered for something they just did. You know?
さあ、どうかな。
Once upon a time, maybe.
ケイちゃんは自分の右手と左手は仲がいいと思う？
え？右手と左手？それは仲がいいとか悪いとか、そういう言い方で例えるものじゃないな。
そういう関係だから。
Yeah, okay. I think I would solidly say you guys do not get along at this point in the story.
仲がいいとか悪いとか、そういう尺度では測れない関係。
We'd been together since we were born. We'd been living in this world as a pair. But I was Mion, and she was Shion. Mion was treated specially, and I insisted on being her. Of course, that was unpleasant for Shion. Deciding to be fair, we switched places all the time. We were probably different from other identical twins. We didn't only like the same things or do things the same way. We even managed to share our knowledge and experiences. When we talked about our experiences, we could share them. As Mion and Shion, we shared everything. That was why each of us was both Mion and Shion at the same time. No. Maybe Shion was the only one who thought that way. I was a little different than that. I was simply letting Shion be Mion once in a while. I was Mion, the successor to the Sonozaki family. I was supposed to be treated specially. I always thought that was my privilege. Just like everyone tried to distinguish between Mion and Shion, I also tried to distinguish between us.
例えば、利き腕というものがあるように、右手と左手には間違いなく優劣の違いがある。もしも鍋つかみが片方しかなかったら、迷うことなく利き腕にするでしょ？
Yep.
そういう差はあったんじゃないかと思う。だからといって、 左手がなくなったっていいなんて思う人は誰もいないはず。そんな、よくわからない関係だね。
Such a strange way to describe it still.
それは近くにいすぎるから見えなくなっているだけで、きっととても仲のいいことなんだと思う。
They did get along really well. Like, all things considered.
俺は一人っ子だから、祭りの前日、ミオンとシオンが二人してじゃれ合っているのをすごく羨ましいと思った。
ないものねだりじゃないの。双子なんて昔は人をからかったりしてそこそこに面白かったけど、こうして互いがはっきりと異なる個性を持った今ではかえって邪魔なだけ。
As an older sister, I felt I was mean for thinking that way, so as punishment, I became Shion. Who am I? I never had a solid identity in the first place. I was Mion. Then I was Shion. I should have just accepted that, but something has changed. I don't even know if I'm Mion or Shion anymore. Had I really been stupid enough to hope that Reno would figure that out for me?
シオンはまだ生きてる。
本当か？
Keiichi looked into my eyes. I nodded quietly.
うん。誰よりもむごたらしい死に方をさせてやろうとずっと考えて閉じ込めておいたけど、今日までその方法はとうとう思いつかなかった。
Saying that so casually is still crazy. This was a lie. I've already come up with ideas, and I've already begun to execute them. I dumped the hag into the well in front of Shion. I dumped Kimiyoshi and Rika in there. I even killed Satoko too. And right now, I'm plotting to kill Keiichi, who Shion fell in love with. I am a demon. Any such gruesome act is simply pleasure to me. That's when I felt a warm hand rubbing my head. It wasn't Satoshi's hand, but Keiichi's. Keiichi and Satoshi-kun are totally different. Why did Shion fall in love with him? His rough hand didn't make me happy. That he understood my feelings was just my imagination. I wasn't happy, and it didn't feel good. It didn't.
来て。私の罪のすべてを見てほしいから。でもそれはケイちゃんにとってこの上なく辛い光景かもしれない。
I'm going to commit my final crime. I'm going to let you see it. I'm going to let Shion see it. When I do, are you still going to think I'm your best friend? Poor Shion. Kei-chan is going to die thinking it's you who's killing him.
引き返すなら今だよ。
Bro should have done it.
ケイちゃんの中の園崎ミオンがどんな人かは知らないけれど、中に入ればそのミオンはきっと
変わらない。何度だって言う。園崎ミオンは俺の最高の親友だ。
You are such a fool. You don't sound cool at all. I don't understand human feelings because I'm now a demon, but I think I can understand why she loves you. I opened the iron door to the underground storehouse and beckoned Keiichi inside. Come on, Keiichi. This is obviously a trap, don't you see? This basement is transparently suspicious. Don't you think you should run to the police? But Keiichi was reckless. He swallowed, then stepped inside. Yeah, very reckless. Ha! You really are a fool. We went down the stairs to the basement, and I let him into the torture room. Everyone is shocked their first time visiting this room. I used to be that way. Of course, Keiichi looked surprised too. Man, he looks real surprised. But he was trying not to show it, and he's doing a good job then. Obviously, he wanted to express his shock at seeing this horrifying room. But he also knew that if he voiced that shock, that he would be rejecting his best friend, who was trying to confess her sins to him. So he did everything he could to stifle his surprise.
大昔の当主の書き物によるとね、血のしぶきってのは犠牲者に負担をかけない割にはインパクトがあるんだってさ。綿流しは見せしめの章だったから、私のご先祖様たちは様々な章を考案してたんだよ。ほら、そこが鑑賞席なんだよ。綿流しは見せしめの章だから、客がいなきゃ意味がない。
Keiichi smiled quietly as he listened to me. No matter what cruelty came out of my mouth, he would embrace me. Was this really the superficial Keiichi Maibara I knew?
みんなここで私が殺した。見てくれている観客はいなかったけど、私は綿流しを上手にやってみせた。いや、観客は一人だけいたかな。
え？観客？
私
The demon.
私という鬼がミオンの執り行う綿流しをずっと見てたから。
I started to laugh. How many hints do you need, Keiichi? When are you going to figure out I'm not really your best friend? Come on, hurry up. You're running out of time. The game is almost over. Literally. This was a game. This was a game of murder. I had killed people using my revenge for Satoshi-kun as an excuse. The demon was trying to capture Keiichi and kill him before Mion's eyes. But Keiichi had a chance. If he figured out I wasn't his best friend, then he'd win. If not, he was out. When did I come up with that rule? I guess it was sometime today. Well, poor guy. Or did I come up with it just a minute ago? Since the two of them aren't too bright, I decided to be easy on them, I guess. You are Mion's best friends, right? Don't you believe in her? Have you already made Mion into a murderer within yourselves? Why don't you try to protect the Mion within you? Why don't you try to believe your friend can't be a murderer? If you could believe until the very end, like Satoko did, you would have realized that I wasn't Mion, your best friend, but just someone who looks like her. But if you can't, if you still believe that I'm Mion, then you're just like me. I killed the Satoshi-kun within me so easily, and you will do the same. You don't deserve to live.
向こうが牢屋。
Yeah, I guess I get that. I guess she's not completely wrong, because earlier she was talking about, like, at the end of the day, if you're a murderer, you're a murderer, right? Doesn't matter the reason. So I guess she wants to be condemned by them for her murder. But more like... Actually, it's more almost... Like, condemn her and be like, no, Mion never would have done that. You're not Mion. You know, like, that's what she wants. Right? To kind of, I guess, almost prove that she was a demon. If that, like, that's the way I see it. Because, like... Or, like, it's kind of proving a point to herself, I think, right? Because she felt like... I don't know. I guess maybe she should have done the same thing for Satoshi. Like, not killed the... effectively killed the Satoshi within her, right? I don't know exactly how to explain this, so I'm just gonna move on. But you guys kind of get the idea, I hope.
シオンはそこにいるのか?
You're not going to make it. Once we reach Shion's cell, your time is up. The demon will win.
シオンシオンか?
ケイちゃんなの?
Keiichi ran to the cell.
大丈夫かシオン怪我はしていないのか?
Shion screamed. I was standing right behind Keiichi. It was time. My preparations to kill the boy she loved were complete. For her, this was going to be the worst possible torture.
落ち着けシオンもう全部終わったんだ全部
Keiichi tried to quell Shion's distress by talking to her in a calm voice. It was such a funny sight. Keiichi was the only one who had no idea what was going on.
シオン、ご機嫌はいかがだった？
落ち着けってシオンもう終わったんだよ大丈夫なんだだから落ち着け
Stun gun incoming.
安心しなよ。あんたは殺さない。まだまだ殺さないんだから。
I understand that Keiichi was just trying to be like a bit of a nice guy, grant those final wishes, right? But I actually still can't believe he was like, go into the murder dungeon by myself with the known murderer. Brilliant. It's game over. I gave you enough chances. You cornered me quite well once, but that was it. You couldn't figure out that I'm not your best friend, Mion. You couldn't believe that Mion isn't a murderer. Does Mion even know that Keiichi was in the storehouse? I mean, like, not that that's the reason that Shion is killing him, but kind of curious.
なに死にたければこの男を殺した後にゆっくりとひき肉にしてやるよ。古式にのっとり獅子の先端から少しずつガリゴリと削ってミンチにしてやる。あの肉引き器はあんたのために取っておいてあるんだからね。それともそれでケイちゃんをミンチにしてみせた方があんたには面白いかな。
おい、いい加減にしろ。今さら怖がらせてどうするんだよ。
ケイちゃん逃げて。
Here you are, demon. Go ahead and take my soul. I've been living my life to avenge Satoshi-kun, but that wasn't what he wanted from me. That was just for my own satisfaction. I couldn't even face Satoshi-kun, so I'll bring this to an end in the way I want. The world became a total mess. Satoshi-kun hates me, and I hate myself too. I'm going to complete my revenge. I don't want anyone to sympathize with me. I won't pretend to be some tragic heroine either. See, this is actually a very good way to explain what I was trying to say earlier. I'm going to become a murderer that nobody could sympathize with. So please, grant a suitable final moment to me. A bluish-white flash filled the huge cave. Keiichi fell down like a doll. Shion reached out to him from the other side of the bars. She screamed at me not to kill Keiichi. Go ahead. Cry and blame me. Don't even think of offering your forgiveness. I'm the most rotten existence in this world, so please, grant me the worst possible ending. Shion begged me desperately to let Keiichi go. I simply abused her, slandered her, and disgraced her. The more Shion suffered, the deeper I'd fall into hell. It wasn't enough. It wasn't even close to deep enough. It wasn't deep enough to compensate for my sins. I dragged Keiichi to the table that I tried to put Satoko on and restrained him there. Keiichi began to move sluggishly. The stun gun must have not worked too well on him.
聞こえるかいシオン。これから始めるよ。ケイちゃんの若い悲鳴をたっぷりと楽しみな。
Wait, what? What? It's like the same thing. What? We're not gonna ruin the pacing by going with the wrong one right now, but like, how in the world would I look at this and be like, I know which one progresses the plot?
いい加減にしろ。
Keiichi squeezed out those words. He sounded good, like he was about to bite me.
ようやくお目覚め。私さっき嘘をついたね。シオンを一番むごたらしく殺してやろうと思って閉じ込めておいたけど、まだ思いつかないって言ったやつ、あれが嘘。
I smiled as I laid out the huge nails and hammer specially made for the nail table.
あの子に自分のせいで死ぬ大勢の人の悲鳴をたっぷりと聞かせて、体の芯まで染み通らせてから殺すの。なかなかセンスいいでしょ。
お前は誰だ？
は？
Oh, that's interesting. Is this maybe why the other, like the normal Shion kind of comes back for a little bit? And, like, warns him? Because he finally was like, you're not Mion, right? Like...
ミオンでしょ？園崎ミオン。恐怖で頭が変になっちゃった？
That's what she wanted, right? Like, explicitly, was him to be like, no, you're not.
違うな。お前が園崎ミオンであるはずがない。
I stopped moving. Kei-chan? Shit. I decided the naming game would be over once we reached Shion's cell. Therefore, even if he guessed this time, it would be too late. Oh well. Sure, I'll listen to you. This is your last chance.
へえ。じゃあ、私がミオンじゃなかったら、私は誰なわけ？
Come on, Kei-chan. Guess who I am. Why don't you try and save Mion, the girl who fell in love with you?
鬼だ。
え？
お前はミオンじゃない。さっきまで一緒だったミオンを返せ。
ケイちゃん、本当に頭は大丈夫？恐怖で頭がどうかなっちゃった？
Funny part is, I think he's kind of right.
触るな！この鬼め！返せ！ミオンを返せよ！俺の最高の友人だったミオンを返せ！
Well, I say he's kind of right. I think he's kind of right. But I listened to him with a blank expression.
ミオンを目の前にしてミオンを返すなどと、お前事であることは分かってる。でも、目の前の今のこいつは、 断じてミオンではありえない。認めるわけにはいかないんだ。
That's great. So I'm not Mion or Shion. He doesn't even see me as my sister. No, wait, that's not it. Keiichi protected the Mion in his heart until the end. He didn't accept the fact that Mion was a murderer. And not just that either. He protected the Shion in his heart as well. He didn't conclude that if Mion wasn't a murderer, that it must have been Shion. To Keiichi, Shion was someone who always made fun of Mion. But that was it. It wasn't like they'd known each other for a long time. But Keiichi protected her. He protected Shion from being a murderer. That's why I'm a demon, and not Mion or Shion, huh? A demon, huh? A demon. That's stupid. But isn't that just right on the money? Oh man. I think she does the laugh a little better than me, guys. That's why she gets paid money to voice act, and I don't.
ちゃん、私を笑い涙で溺れ殺すつもり？
However, Keiichi didn't back off. He kept screaming. He screamed loudly so that I could hear his voice even when I was stuck inside of a demon.
頑張れミオン。こんな鬼畜生に負けるな。本当に強いお前の力を見せてくれ。
Surely he isn't talking to me knowing that I'm the real Mion, right? He's just confusing us again. So there's no reason to let my heart be disturbed by Keiichi's screams towards Mion.
頼むよミオン。どこでお前はこんな鬼に負けちまったんだ。
That might get to her.
お前はこんな弱いやつじゃないだろう。
Ooh.
負けるな。戦え。
He's right. I didn't fight back. How did he know? How did he know I didn't fight back? I lost to the demon. After all, I'm weak. I'm not strong enough to defeat the demon. Even so, Keiichi continued to talk to Mion. His voice had become hoarse, and he had begun sobbing. He kept mumbling, Mion.
ケイちゃん、メイドの土産なんて気の利いたものじゃないけれど、どうしても知りたがっているようだから、一つだけ教えてあげるよ。私の中に鬼が宿ったのはずいぶん前。その鬼は私を蝕み、強行に駆り立てようとした。
This line, this whole speech was a big part of so many, like my entire theory, like the switcheroo theory, right? Like, and actually not necessarily the switch. This was actually what really got me to buy that it was some kind of internal suggestion, right? Look, I could actually still be wrong about that. Internal suggestion doesn't seem completely accurate. It really does kind of seem like there's just two modes, in a way. But seeing that now, like seeing this again, it's so crazy. Like I said, like I remember like quoting this so many times.
だけれど、私はそれを理性で押さえつけた。鬼はそれで収まり、私はその鬼はどこかへ行ってしまったんだと思い込んでいた。でも、本当は違った。私の中から出て行ったんじゃなく、私の中で眠っていただけだったの。
That was the truth. When I learned about Satoshi-kun's disappearance, my weak soul couldn't take the sadness, and anger filled me to the brim. But the insanity had stopped there. Time had healed me, and embraced me with memories of Satoshi-kun.
その鬼は、ある小さなことをきっかけに、また目覚めてしまった。それは、何に原因があったと思う？
It was like, I'd say probably like 2 or so days before the meeting with Takano, which by the way throws things off really bad for me. The day she met Takano was when she like really snapped and started hearing the footsteps and stuff, but I mean that was the day in the apartment when she lost it and like choked Mion, you know? I can imagine that's the day that really did it. It was such a little
鬼
thing.
の私が教えるのも変だけれど、あんたが全てを狂わせてしまった元凶。
I guess inadvertently, if Mion hadn't gone to Shion's apartment that night, a tear rolled down my cheek.
あの時、あんたがもらった人形を躊躇なく私に渡していたなら。
This is just Cat from the demon. Or maybe not the demon, her pretending to be Mion.
全ては狂い出さなかったかもしれん。ケイちゃんには理解できないだろうね。理解できなくて当然。だけどね、そこからドミノ倒しみたいに、パタパタパタと、いろんなものが倒れ始めて、はじめの小さな一つを倒したあなたに自覚がないのは当然だろうけど、あなたが元凶な。
If Kei-chan hadn't done something so insensitive, Shion wouldn't have cried. Shion cried and talked to me about it. That had reminded me of Satoshi-kun. I became jealous of her for having someone she loved so close to her. Yeah, that's what I was kind of just saying, is it was actually Mion going over that night. It was a very small jealousy, but that little feeling woke up the demon who was sleeping deep inside of me. After that, I just let the demon take over. The demon ate up all of the sadness for my loss of Satoshi-kun, and filled my heart with the notion of revenge, even though I knew that wouldn't make Satoshi-kun happy. Then, the scary incidents that followed dragged me to hell, from whence there was no escape.
そんな嘘だろ。
自覚がないのは当然。でも、紛れもなく元凶なのはケイちゃん。あの時、あんたがさりげなく人形を私にあげていたら、多分こんなことにはならなかったと。
Was I simply transferring the blame to Keiichi? Such a tiny thing woke up the demon inside of me. The demon would have woken up eventually. I was at fault. I didn't fight back. I let the demon live in my soul, and I let the demon possess me. Keiichi didn't hide his tears. They were pouring down his cheeks. Maybe he was crying in my place, since I'd become a demon and couldn't cry of my own will.
じゃあそろそろいい？この拷問はね、とってもシンプル。左手の小指の先端の節に釘を打つ。順に親指まで打ったらまた小指に戻って、今度は真ん中の節に釘を打つ。この調子で15本の釘で左手を打ちつける。それが終わったら次は右手。それが終わったら次は指先ってたくさんの神経が集まってるから、ケイちゃんが想像するよりもはるかに痛いよ。両手30本を打ち終える前に失神しちゃう人もいるそうだから。
I mean, get a load of these guys. Passing out because 30 nails were hammered into their hands? Imagine. I put a nail to Keiichi's left pinky. Once I hit it with a huge hammer, it would start, and it would be over.
他の人を拷問するときには何のためらいもなかったけど、なぜかあんたにはためらいがある。
それでミオンの鬼が収まるなら。
I actually want to see your reaction to this. I forgot about the time when he was like, you know what? If this is what it takes, torture me.
気の済むようにやってくれ。
I didn't understand what he just said, so I tried to repeat his words in my head.
あんた、本気で言ってるの？
俺が傷つけたミオンの痛みに比べれば、こんなの大したことないんだろ。気の済むようにするといい。その代わり、2つ約束しろ。俺を気が済むまで痛めつけたら、シオンは許してやれ。細工殿に忍び込んだ罪には、それで十分見合う仕打ちをしたはずだ。
あんた、この後に及んで自分よりシオンの心配ができるわけ？
I am Mion Sonozaki. So why are my eyes growing so damp when hearing Keiichi show concern for Shion?
もう一つは、気が済んだら、もうお前は消えろ。その体をミオンに返してやってくれ。それだけだ。
あんたって人には命乞いをするとかそういう考えは思い浮かばないの？
And this story's like, I mean, I guess.
約束。2つじゃなくて、3つにしていいか？ 3つ目は、俺を殺すなにしてくれ。
最初に2つって言ったでしょ。だからもうダメ。
そいつは残念。
Even in this situation, Keiichi and I joked around and laughed. Then I knew. I knew why Shion fell in love with him. He's different from Satoshi-kun, but he's a good guy.
多分私は約束を守らないよ。鬼だから。
その時は仕方がないさ。
He really just was like, this is it then. Just the way he's joking regarding like, well, I guess if I can ask 3 things, keep me alive, I guess. Darn, can't, unlucky. I don't know. Keiichi smiled and then closed his
ケイ
eyes.
ちゃん、今の3つ目の願いだけは聞いてもいいよ。1つ目の願い、シオンを救うこと。これはもう無理。シオンは鬼が殺してしまう。それはもう決められたことだから止められない。だから諦めて。
I stroked Keiichi's chin.
そして2つ目の願い、この体をミオンに返すこと。これももう無理。今日を境にミオンが戻ってくることはもうない。今日以降、もし私の姿があったとしても、それは姿だけ。私の姿をした鬼だから。
そんなことはない。ミオンはミオンだ。もう戻ってこないなんて悲しいことを言うな。
聞こえる？あの音。
I'd been hearing a noise. I knew what it had to be. Bang, bang. A dull sound was repeating in a regular rhythm. It was accompanied by a light tremor. People were trying to force open the iron door to the underground storehouse.
帰りが遅いからレナが大石を呼んだんでしょ。あのぼやっとした感じの子がこんなに頭が回るのだけは計算外だったな。
それについては同感だよ。
Really? I wonder how much Kei-chan really knows about Rena. Rena Ryugu. I won this time. Rena couldn't figure out who I was until the end. Or maybe she did. Rena didn't seem confused about whether I was Mion or Shion. Perhaps Rena could tell Mion and Shion apart through her sense of smell. Why would that not even shock me? She was good at that kind of thing. No way. I'm overestimating her. I brought out my stun gun so Keiichi could see the sparks.
見たことないでしょ。本物のスタンガンだよ。かなり出力が上げられるようになってるけどね。
さっき俺に食らわせたのはそれか。子供のおもちゃには向かねえぞ。
そうだね。
They must have broken the first door. The path was complicated, but there was no other door except for the one to this torture room.
殺さないけど、しばらくケイちゃんにはお休みしててもらうね。
Alright, there's been a lot of interesting stuff already this episode, but this is where I'm like, where are we going from here? I feel like for sure Shion kills Mion, right? And escapes. That is my guess. But I don't know, maybe we're gonna get a surprise switcheroo and Mion kills Shion. I don't know.
すぐに大石が来てくれるから、ちょっとの我慢。
Keiichi bit down and smiled bitterly. I paused, hesitating a little. Is it at this point? I think she's basically like warning him, like, don't interact with me again. Keiichi opened his eyes to see what was wrong. Right? That does
ごめ
happen,
ん
right?
ね。ミオンを怪我して。
No, I forgot about that line. Yep.
ここに入る前に約束した。何があっても俺の中のミオンは変わらない。
でも忘れて。今日以降、
Okay. I
も
was
しも
right.
私を見かけても
I did remember that.
近寄らないでね。それは私の屍に取り付いた鬼なんだから。
Bzz. Keiichi fell unconscious. I locked the door to the torture room. I locked the door to the huge cave, too. That should give me some time.
シオン、さあ出ておいで。
I opened the cell and told Shion to leave it. She was crying.
あんたがケイちゃんを見逃してほしいと祈ったから、お姉はちゃんと約束を守ったよ。
Yeah, this is where things get interesting.
ケイちゃんはスタンガンで伸びてるだけ。もうすぐ警官隊が来るから解放されるよ。ありがとう。でも、シオンにはまだ用がある。ここから脱出するの。
I took Shion to the cell with the hidden passage.
その前にシオン。
Shion has to escape from here.
あんたにミオンを返すわ。脱げ、その服。
Oh my god, it literally did happen like that. I swear I suggested this exact possibility. They changed, and she gets shoved back in.
交換だよ、また。ほら、紙のゴムバンド。
Shion had no idea what was going on, but she changed her clothes as I ordered her to. I gave her the flashlight, and she hung it around her neck.
あんたから先にどうぞ。井戸の底にあるとかいう隠し通路を探すの。
The light from the flashlight wasn't enough to entirely illuminate the way down. Wait, what? Is she actually going to get out? Or what? I'm confused. I'm just gonna keep going. Nobody in their right mind would want to descend that well. But Shion obeyed and timidly climbed down the ladder. When she had passed entirely below the rim of the well, I brought out my stun gun and put it to Shion's head. Shion understood the meaning of that.
お姉ちゃん。
Oof.
あんたの望み通り、ケイちゃんは救った。代わりにあんたを殺してもいいってことだったもんね。
Okay.
お姉はちゃんと約束は守るよ。
That is exactly how it goes down. Shion's hands and feet were clinging to a very unstable ladder, so there was no way she could protect herself. She was in a critical situation.
ミオンの格好をしたあんたは、ここから落ちておだぶつ。私はシオンの格好だからね。ケイちゃんが被害者だと立証してくれるよ。私は岩牢の中で警官隊の助けを待つ。まあ、指紋なんかでバレるだろうけどさ、その頃にはどこかへ身を隠してるってわけ。お姉もなかなかやるでしょ。
私を殺すとサトシの復讐になる。
そこまで分かってるなら覚悟はいいよね。
Do you have anything to say about it?
そこまで落ちてサトシ君に謝っといで。
お姉、この底にはね、サトシはいないよ。
Then why'd you say he was?
はあ？あんたら言わなかったっけ？ここに捨てられてるって。
園崎家で殺されてればここに捨てられてると思う。そうは言った。
この後に及んでややこしいことを言うね。もうちょっと分かりやすくお姉に言ってごらん。
私もね、サトシのこと好きだったんだよ。
そりゃそうだろうね。私が好きになるくらいだもん。
Right.
だからサトシが消えた時、私も悲しくて悔しくていろいろとね調べたんだよ。
Now this is interesting.
それで
バッチャにね、絞め殺してやろうってくらいに。そしたらバッチャが次期当主にしか話さないよ、絶対に内緒だよって。
What she said was something hard to believe. The hag said to Shion, the Sonozaki family had nothing to do with the disappearance of Satoshi-kun. Shion couldn't understand, so she asked again. The Sonozaki family held a lot of influence in the underworld because of our dad's connections. In fact, they used such illegal measures during the dam conflict. Therefore, people just assumed the Sonozaki family had pulled the strings when the dam construction incident took place. Even the hag laughed meaningfully and said suspicious things, so everyone believed she was the mastermind. But it was all a performance. It was a hoax by the Sonozaki family head. It was just a bluff. The family took credit for the incidents to make it look like they were pulling the strings. With the influence they already had, the bluff was very believable. Therefore, people thought of the Sonozaki family head as one that had deep connections in the underworld, and that they were capable of producing any sort of conspiracy. People had believed that since the dam conflict, Oreo just smiled at things she had nothing to do with. See, I said her name right for once. Oreo. As if she was pulling the strings. I should have known that OU was O, right? Like, there's so many examples of that in Japanese. Like, whatever. Sorry, moving on. When the relatives saw that, they became fearful of Orio's power. When the damn construction site manager was killed, Oreo smiled meaningfully. When the relatives saw that, they assumed Oreo was behind it. When the Hojo couple fell off the cliff, when the Furude couple died violently, when Satoshi-kun's aunt died and Satoshi-kun disappeared, the hag just smiled meaningfully. Everyone believed the Sonozaki family was behind all those incidents.
嘘だ！あの事件が園崎家が関わってないってわけ？そんなの信じると思う？私はバッチャがね、特にサトシの失踪については本当に知らないって言ったの。だってサトシとお姉の交際、バッチャは許したんだよ。爪を見事剥いで見せたから全部忘れるって言って。
Kimiyoshi gave Shion the idea that she was like kind of betrayed there, but no. I guess Oreo was actually fine. Oh my god.
嘘だ！嘘だ！手任せを言うな！じゃあ誰がサトシ君を消したの？誰が？それだけはわからない。でもね、園崎家じゃない。
Well, I gotta say, that was my theory, is that it wasn't the Sonozakis. Like, that was my determination in Chapter 4, and ultimately, I don't know, there were points this chapter where I was like, was it? Right, but like, ultimately, I don't know, I feel like I didn't really switch up. We still haven't gotten the reveal as to who it is, but I don't know, I think this is real. Right, this is already what I thought.
バッチャじゃない！あんただって、タタリのシステムは知ってるでしょ？別にサトシ君を襲えとわざわざばあさんが指示しなくても気を利かす誰かが襲う、そういう仕掛けでしょうが。
Shion couldn't say anything in response. Even if the hag had forgiven him personally, as long as he was the object of the curse, the executioner would follow him forever.
バッチャはね、お社様のタタリ、誰が起こしてるのかなって長いだけど。
Whoops.
見つけられなかった。誰もが村の中の誰かって信じてるのに、村の中にそんな人は存在しないの。
I'm more convinced than ever that it's Takano.
存在しない？しないならなんで毎年タタリが起きるわけ？
Because she couldn't figure out who it was.
おかしいよね。でもいないの。いないんだって。フルでリカが私に首をかきむしる注射で襲いかかってきたってのは話したよね。それはどう説明するの？急須猫を噛むって状況じゃない。向こうから訪ねてきて催涙スプレーと注射器で襲いかかってきた。
For sure trying to cure her. I cannot believe anything otherwise.
おそらく同じ注射で富武さんが殺されてるんだと思う。
Probably true.
それはわからない。リカちゃんがそんなことするなんて信じられないよ。実際に見た私でも信じられないよ。あの死に方を見りゃね。
I don't think Shion and the hag are lying. That would mean the hag wasn't in as much control as we thought she was, though. She didn't know anything about that scary drug. Or if the Furude family was the one executing the curse. If the Sonozaki family had nothing to do with it, then who made the series of mysterious deaths possible? Was it just a coincidence that something happened 5 years in a row on the night of Watsunagashi? No. Coincidences don't happen 5 times in a row. That's impossible. A human must have made it happen, and it was all decided somewhere the Sonozaki family wasn't aware of. The Kimiyoshi family didn't know anything. Kimiyoshi believed the Sonozaki family was behind it. Was it the Furude family? With Rika's behavior and the elderly people who believed in her so blindly, did some kind of power exist around the Furude family that created the curse? No way. The Furude couple themselves were victims of it. How could a little girl like Rika possess a power stronger than that of the Sonozaki family? No way, it's just impossible. In other words, I had killed the heads of all the 3 families and was trying to bring an end to the whole thing, all as a result of a misunderstanding about the dark secret of Hinamizawa. Then what about my revenge? Did I kill all the wrong people? People who had nothing to do with Satoshi-kun's disappearance at all? Correct.
やるね、シオン。最後の最後で私の復讐劇をひっくり返そうってわけ。お姉ちゃん、信じて。私は仇なんかじゃない。信じてよ、お姉ちゃん。
maybe I shouldn't be, but I can't. I don't know. I can't help but believe Mion. Like the things she's saying here. Look, she could be lying, right? What good? What does she have to gain at this point? I guess maybe she can barter for her life, but like, I don't know. Realistically, I think she knows that's not happening. You know, I don't know. I kind of believe her that it's not actually the Sonozaki family, especially because that's already what I've been thinking for a while. Shion begged with tears in her eyes. That would have affected me if I was still Shion's sister, but I don't feel anything anymore, because I'm a demon. I'll be done once I kill Shion. I've already decided that. If I don't finish it up, what would my existence be for? What about the life I devoted to revenge for Satoshi-kun? How dare she tell me all this nonsense to confuse me at the very end? If what she said was the truth, then what I'd done wasn't revenge. It was just the curse of the 5th year.
シオン、あんたが本当に無実なら、あんたは天国へ行けるね。サトシ君に謝っておいて。
おね。
A bluish-white spark lit up the darkness, and Shion disappeared into the well.
天国でサトシ君に謝って。私は天国には行けないから謝れない。
Kinda sounds like she believes it too at this point. Instead, I'm going deep into hell. Jumping into this well will be too simple an atonement for what I've done. Till I find a perfect way to end my life, I'm going to live as best I can. Okay, so when I did my theory video, obviously I genuinely believed that there was another switcheroo here, and I was wrong about that. And we're not done. I was kind of right that there might be one more. I'm pretty sure I suggested that there were 2 chapters left. One for everything we just saw, and then one for the explanation of like the stabbing and maybe the running away, and then her final death, right? Or what I think was her final death, or maybe her great escape, right? I don't know. Let's go ahead and view the tips, and we'll kind of talk. Page 199. Shion Sonozaki's last confession is dubious. Did the hag convince her that the Sonozaki family had nothing to do with it? Or is that the truth? In my own investigation so far, I've proven there are aspects of the curse which can't be explained by the Sonozaki family alone. So, my notes were all bogus from the beginning. These 200 pages are full of bullshit. I thought of burning this notebook, but I won't do it. This notebook proves my guilt. I won't distort the facts. I won't burn it. After all, my life was only a notebook long. I wonder if anybody will read this. If somebody does, please let them learn something from my stupidity. The series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa, dubbed a Yashiro-sama's curse. If you're reading this, please find the truth. That's my only wish. Is that the exact same line that we saw from, like, Keiichi's note and from the thing at the end of Chapter 4? Is that what it was? June 1983. Mion Sonozaki. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what we saw here. We're not done with the chapter as a whole, so we're not going to talk about the chapter as a whole, just like just this sub-chapter, right? Still a banger. Okay, so this is an interesting one. A lot of it was... Obviously, there was a lot of things we'd already seen, so I don't need to talk about, like, you know, a lot of the stuff we'd already seen, just the new perspectives we gained. And I think the biggest one is we get to really grasp the inner turmoil within Shion, right? That, you know, oh wait, was this the same episode where Satoko got, like, tortured? I think it was. Okay, in that case, that was a very new event, right? That was a very new event. And so that one is, you know, worth bringing up because that was what really started this inner turmoil with Shion, right? When she realized that Satoko never gave in, never gave up, right? She always believed that Satoshi would come back, even though she knew he probably wouldn't, right? She always believed that Satoshi within her heart stayed alive. It was the way Shion put it. Whereas Shion let it die. She was like, he's gone. He's not coming back, right? She didn't hold out hope for him. She let the Satoshi within her die, right? And so this kind of... this created a lot of problems for her, right? That I think that was when there was that part of her that realized, like, I've done terrible things. I'm a demon. I'm terrible. I'm going to hell, right? Like, and we've seen that a lot with Keiichi. What? Maybe Keiichi too, low key, and chapters 1 and 3, but not the point. But like I said, a lot of inner turmoil. Who is she at this point? Like, she doesn't even know. I think that she's maybe realizing that maybe she wasn't as she wasn't really in control of things like she wanted to be. She let the demon do what it wanted because that was what she wanted, right? In a way, it wasn't what Satoshi wanted. It's not what she should have done, right? She knows this. You can kind of see that throughout the chapter. Is that there's this pervading idea. I kind of like this self-hatred, right? That she's experiencing. But I don't know. The demon's still there. The demon, it's still it still wants to kill Keiichi at this point, and still really wants to kill Mion. But Keiichi's insistence that you're not Mion, you're a demon, right? Like, you never even fought, right? Well, I think is a lot closer to the truth than he realizes, to be honest. That's my thought, but it's just interesting for sure. Like, Keiichi got through to her, right? It like, at that point, like, it was Satoko that started to get through to her, and then Keiichi really breaks through, right? And that's what gives her these few moments where she's like, I'll spare you, right? Like, she cries for a second, right? Like, she hesitates, right? And it's like, I feel like we kind of get the Shion back, right? That we had before. And I just remember vividly, it's like, when she realized that he was still protecting Shion too, right? Because here's something, and I never even thought about this, I'm not gonna lie, right? Keiichi could have just pinned the blame on Shion. He never once said, no, this isn't Mion, this is Shion pretending to be Mion, which is established a thing that could happen, right? Like, they could have taken each other's places, right? And so he could have been like, you're not Mion, you're Shion, right? Like, to protect, like, Mion within him, which is, like, I think what she initially wanted, but she got even more than she bargained for him. He was like, no, it's neither of you, right? I refuse to believe that either of you would be like this, right? There's a demon. It took you over. Fight back. Like, you didn't even fight, right? That scene, with more perspective, that scene is so much more impactful, I feel like, than it was in Chapter 2. Don't get me wrong. It was good in Chapter 2, but right here is when I'm like, dang, right? Like, knowing, like kind of thinking about that he didn't even condemn Shion, right? So that was great. But then really, like I said, the big thing was that very final talk with Mion at the well, right before Shion kills Mion, right? Suggesting that it's not the Sonozaki family at all. Like, it's not them. And that is kind of crazy, right? Because it might be true, to be honest. Like, I think I could buy it. Like I said, I already believed this before, but, like, I don't know. We went through the whole chapter, and it was like, maybe it was the Sonozakis. I don't know. I guess she's not, like, she kind of raises some maybe valid points with the whole, like, she didn't even have to say anything, right? Like, but I don't know. Mion could be lying on her deathbed, basically, there. But, like, I don't think she is, right? Like, that's just my gut feeling. She's not lying. It wasn't the Sonozakis responsible for the curse killings. And it's a third party that they've even searched for and been unable to find, right? Which is a fascinating thought, of course. Because if they're managing to dodge the Sonozakis, that's crazy. That's obviously very impressive. I feel like even, like, I always thought there was maybe a chance they were, like, collaborating with the Sonozakis, you know? Like, but, like, if they were looking for whoever it was, and they couldn't find the culprits, that's crazy, actually, with everything we know about the Sonozakis. Huh. Hold on, I gotta pull something up. Oop. I need to check. This video's been so segmented, I don't know how long this one is, so I need to go and look at the segments. How long are we looking at here? 45 minutes. And then we're up to 17. Okay, we're already at the 2-hour mark, aren't we? For now, I'm not going to record a conclusion here. And we're just going to play it through because I feel like this isn't going to be another 2-hour finale. I could see this being 30 minutes to an hour. But if this ends up being stupid long, there'll be a split here. But we're just going to go ahead and, I guess, jump into what I assume is the final chapter. And kind of see how things really end, because this is where I got thrown for a loop, right? Like, look, first of all, like I said, when I initially guessed during Chapter 4, like in my theory video, I said that it was Mion who lived here. I think I walked that back this chapter, but, like, and I think I said I actually lean that this is Shion. I think I said that. I know I talked about potentially flip-flopping. I don't know which way I committed, right? But I think it was when I realized my timing was off. Like, my whole days theory was like, no, it just seems completely wrong at this point. So, with that being just wrong, it seems, that was the basis for why I'm like, maybe they did one last, like, kind of switch there, right? And so, like I said, I think I walked it back. I'm not 100%, but at this point, though, I don't know how. Like, even no matter what, though, what did happen? Because the question that I've kind of wondered is more like, they make it sound like the time that Keiichi got stabbed and the time that the body of Shion was found are just not compatible, right? Like, there is no way that Shion could have been there, right? Like, just not possible, right? That's what they make it sound like. If it's possible that there was a bigger time gap than is alluded to, I mean, she could have just killed him and then killed herself, right? Not that crazy. But if there's not, I don't have a real answer unless she goes down into the well. She can't go down into the well. The police got that body, right? What, does she go get it herself and throw it down at the bottom of the apartment? I don't know, because then you have the thing right at the very end where he sees Shion that last time. Is that real? I don't know. That's something I'm curious about. What is Shion's ultimate fate? Was she dead, and was that last part kind of a hallucination, like trauma-induced maybe, or he's got the craziness at this point, right? Does she find a way to stay alive even past that? I don't know. It seems relatively possible that once she believes she's killed everybody that the demon wanted to kill, that she just kills herself. It doesn't seem out of that crazy to me. I'm really, really intrigued by this one. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Let's see what we got. We're going to go ahead and save. I almost forgot to do that. Hopefully this one won't be too long, but we'll see. Either way, I'm playing it through. June 1983. There has been a series of disappearances in Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone City, XX Prefecture. The suspect is Mion Sonozaki, 1X years old. Allegedly, she abducted, imprisoned, and killed 5 Hinamizawan residents, Oryo Sonozaki, Shion Sonozaki, Kichiro Kimiyoshi, Rika Furude, and Satoko Hojo, between June 19th and the 21st. Preliminary investigations on the incident were delayed at the time due to insufficient evidence, but by chance, the case was solved rather abruptly. On the morning of the 22nd, a vehicle patrolling the Sonozaki property heard screams from inside and rushed in as an emergency measure. They secured the suspect's missing younger sister, Shion Sonozaki, and her 2 missing classmates, Keiichi Maibara and Reina Ryugu. The suspect fled the scene. Not quite how this went, but kind of. We found hair, pieces of skin, and blood of the 4 missing people, Oryo Sonozaki, Kichiro Kimiyoshi, Rika Furude, and Satoko Hojo, and the torture room that was discovered in the basement of the outbuilding on the Sonozaki family property. Supposedly, that's where they were killed. We concluded that the victims were tortured in that torture room. However, the remains have still not been found. According to one of her imprisoned classmates' advice, the body should be somewhere in the basement of the outbuilding where the torture took place. However, nothing has been uncovered as of yet, including the escape route the suspect took. In addition, investigations continue regarding any possible connection to the series of mysterious deaths in recent years. But no evidence that Mion Sonozaki was involved, either directly or indirectly, has been found. There's still many unclear points as to the motive behind the incident, and as those of the Sonozaki family and the residents of Hinamizawa have been extremely uncooperative in assisting us, we expect to require a long time to clarify them. The opinion of a local officer knowledgeable about the region is that this may have been a lynching, an internal form of punishment sacrilegious acts carried out against the beliefs of Hinamizawa village. An internal form of punishing sacrilegious acts carried out against the beliefs of Hinamizawa village. I don't know why I read that so weird. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that's Oishi, but I don't really, that's not really accurate at all, actually. It is clear that these incidents are particularly rooted in this region, and the prefectural police department has ordered a cautious investigation. We anticipated gaining valuable clues from the missing person believed to have been in prison for the longest time, Shion Sonozaki, the suspect's younger sister. However, the incident has left such serious mental aftereffects that she has not been in a state of mind to properly answer any questions about what she knows. The psychiatrist concluded that she is in a temporary state of shock, but as of today, she has yet to show any improvement. Yeah, okay. Something like that. I mean, this is the exact same report we got after Chapter 2 that we saw. Okay. Now we're back to Shion. I was acting at first. It was just an act to avoid being interrogated by the police. As it turns out, though, fake insanity can become real. You see, I couldn't bear it any longer. I continued to be haunted by the presence Rene Ryugu had talked about. It was so close that it could almost touch my back. It wasn't Satoshi-kun, and it wasn't a hallucination. It had become Shion's ghost. Shion didn't go to heaven after all. She was always by my side instead. Shion didn't like the fact that I was still alive when she wasn't, so she had decided to haunt me until she witnessed my death. Every night she whispered to me, telling me to die. I get it. I get it. I shouted at the Shion in my back. Through my mouth, she shouted back at me. It must look odd to other people. They'd think I was arguing with myself. It's not fair. Why are you still living, sis? Die, die, die already. You said you'd die right after you killed me. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. It's so dark and cold in this well. It's cold. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Oh, I get it. I get it. Shut up. What exactly do you think, sis? You won't die in the way you want to. You're just running away. You're trying to survive even after you did all those horrible things. You'll never be forgiven. You're cursed. You're cursed. You're destined to die.
やかましいよ、シオン。奴隷のくせにやかましい、やかましい。おねえ、おねえ。クソったれが。消え失せやがれ。
Okay, yeah, she's gone properly insane, huh?
ミオンはずるい。ミオンだけずるい。姉妹はいつも一緒。死んでも一緒。だからミオンほら、迎えに来たんだよ。ミオン
Bang, 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 bang. Shion banged on the door. Bam, 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 bam. The noise is too loud. It's cracking my ears and my head open. Shion's trying to break in. Ah, shit. All right, Shion, I get it. The perfect way for me to die is to be cursed to death by you, isn't it? But I won't be going so easily. I won't simply disappear. It wouldn't be fair if your beloved was left alive, after all. He-he-heek? I don't know what that sound is supposed to be. Is that Kasai trying to break in? I went out onto the balcony to avoid Shion, who was on the other side of the door. If I jump over the railing to the neighboring apartment, I could reach the fire escape. He-he-hyak-hyak-hyak. Eat shit, Shion. I leaned over the railing and jumped to the balcony next door. Then I rushed down the stairs, noiseless as a cat. Shion was too stupid to realize that I escaped. He-ki-kya-kya-gi-he. He-ki-kya-he-he-gi-he. These are certainly sound effects. Those are some deranged sound effects if I've ever seen them. It wouldn't take too long to get to Keiichi's house on a motorcycle. Shion must believe that I'm still in that room. She's so stupid. Soon enough, I could see the Maibara mansion. I'd never seen it before, but I'd heard a great deal about it from Shion. She told me that Keiichi's room is on the second floor. I should wake him up, throw a stone. Jesus, these are some insanity sound effects. I threw a couple of stones at the window, and shortly thereafter the light turned on and the window opened. I saw Keiichi there. The moment I saw him, my madness cooled off for a while. Even from here I could tell that Keiichi was running down the stairs. He showed up quickly, with a doll in his hand. I felt depressed to see it. It was the doll he failed to give Shion. It isn't fair after all, Shion. I'm so jealous, Kei-chan. I want to receive a doll from Satoshi-kun too.
Mio!
お久しぶり。どう？元気にしてた？
Despite the burning insanity within me, I spoke to him calmly. It's true. My body's controlled by the demon now. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here this late. Kihihihi.
お前、こんなところをうろついてて大丈夫なのか？
本当はいけないよ。
それより、どうしたんだよ、こんな時間に。
最後にお話ししたかったから。
I feel horribly sleepy. Maybe it's more like fainting due to loss of blood. A sensation is proof that the insanity is swallowing me.
私ね。もうここにはいられない。
大丈夫か？どこか具合でも。
今日まで頑張ってきたけど自分でわかるの。もうダメ。もう限界。
I'm really of the belief that this is like genuinely some kind of craziness that she like really can't control. This is really actually a little hard to watch, I can't lie. Or like not hard to watch, but like I don't know, it's a little tough, right? Like I don't really know how to explain what I mean here if you don't get it, I guess. It's not like it's super hard to watch. I feel a little bad for her, I guess, right? It's kind of hard to feel bad for someone who murdered 5 people and tries to murder a 6th here. But like, if I really believe that she wasn't in control of this, then I don't know. I can feel bad for her in that case, you know? And it really is starting to feel like you watch this, it feels like this genuinely isn't something she's in control of.
私のお迎えはもうすぐ後ろまで来てる。
I used to think this, I initially thought this meant the police, but it's starting to feel a lot more like Chapter 1 Keiichi, which is interesting, actually. I won't get to decide how I die. Shion won't allow me to. No wonder. I dropped her down the well. It's only fitting she would die the same way, huh? It wasn't only her. None of the people I killed chose to die how they did. Considering that, debating how I'll die must seem a luxurious concern to the dead.
大丈夫かよ。もう無理するな。そうだ。俺ミオに。
I'll kill him, kill him, kill him. I'll avenge Satoshi-kun's death. I'll avenge his death. This guy is Shion's beloved. I hate her. I'll kill him and teach her a lesson. Eat this Yeah. While gravity's pull spun around me, I realized that I had stabbed him with a knife. Gah. I made it before Shion killed me. I got back at her. Take that, Shion. I'm just gonna... Okay. I mean, that's just insanity laughs. Keiichi rolled on the ground, clutching his stomach.
できた！全部できた！私が殺したやつはこれでさえ！
Yeah, I did it. I did it. I avenged your death, Satoshi-kun. Don't you love me for it? Will you stroke my head? No, that's not how he'd be feeling. Yes, this was all a bad dream. After all, I was just in my room like always, suffering from nightmares of Shion. But where was I now? I'd been standing on my apartment's fire escape, alone. I could still recall that dream. Yes, I had stepped out onto the veranda. My front door was still locked, so I had to climb to the veranda again. Huh. Whoa. And, yep, there it is. My foot had slipped, and then I felt a floating sensation. After that, a sharp, indescribable pain ran through my head. That indescribable pain finally cleared the fog away from my nightmare. I just slipped from the fire escape as I tried to return to my balcony, and fell into the roof jutting out from the elevator hall 2 or 3 floors down. Well, I can't exactly use this as a thumbnail now, huh? My room is on the 8th floor. I wasn't expecting to be caught up here. When I fell, my head landed right onto the concrete corner, and I could feel both enormous pain and the warm blood dripping out. I felt strangely calm. I couldn't sense the demon, Shion's ghost, or my grudge. I felt just like a baby. The nothingness brought me peace. All my memories from when I was born and named Mion, up until today, came to my mind. I recalled memories of the time I'd spent with Satoshi-kun. Tears rolled down my cheeks. Where did I go wrong? When in my life did I make the wrong choice? I do know just where and when that was, because Satoshi-kun reminded me. I'll leave Satoko to you. Sure. I believe you'll return. I'll be waiting for you. I'll take care of Satoko. I'll wait for you with her. We'll be good girls. You left your precious sister to me, and nobody else. I guess I didn't get the significance of what you said. I'll be fine this time. I love you, Satoshi-kun. Satoko. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. Shion, I'm really sorry. Could I repay everything with my death? No way, right? That's not how it should be done. I wanted Satoshi-kun to stroke my head one more time. I wanted to hear him mumble one more time. I knew it was too much to ask, and so I had no other regrets. That brought an end to my apologies. I rolled over, sending myself falling to the ground, head first. I hoped my head would crack open to take me to the hell I deserved. I was just a demon. I belonged in hell. Why was I born? Why did this world give birth to me? I shouldn't have been born. I would have had to suffer if I hadn't been. Oh. Like, seeing it like it is now, I really believe that this is not something she chose, man. Right? Like, to go insane like that, right? Like, and if that's true, if that's not something she really controlled, you really have to feel bad for her, if that is true. Now, if it's not, and she did choose it, and now it's just like a pre-death clarity, right? Then it's like, okay, maybe you don't have to feel bad for her, right? But for me, it's like, if this is genuinely something that she was, like, doomed to, right? She didn't want to be like this, right? Like, never, right? And it was like, if it was some kind of curse or some kind of illness or whatever, right? I gotta feel for her here, man. I wouldn't have had to suffer if I hadn't been born. What was the meaning of my meaningless life? If I wasn't born, nobody would have had to suffer. Thank you for treating me kindly, even though I was like this. Thank you for teaching me love, even though I was like this. Even though I was like this. Even though... I'm really sorry, everybody. I really am. I'm sorry. If Satoshi-kun could give me another chance, I wouldn't make the same mistake again. Never again. Here comes the ground. Bye. I love you. Eh? She heard him one last time. Whether it was a figment of her imagination, which is the most likely, or what. No. I wish
今日
so,
までの出来事
I
が
wish so many times that everything was a
全て
dream. So I wrote
夢
it
だったら
down,
いいの
hoping
に
for
な
it to become
って
true.
何度も思った。だから書いてみた。書いて夢になると信じて。
I mean, that does not sound like somebody who is really fully in control of their actions to
Voilà.
me.
よく
Games
漫画
and
の中
cartoons
に
are
あるじ
often
ゃな
like
い
this. There's a huge stack of stories I
私の
can't
目の
possibly
前
eat
に
them all. I try to
食べ
reach
き
for
れないほ
them,
どのお菓子が
but
積
then
み上げ
somebody
てあっ
wakes
て
me up.
それに手を伸ばしまさに食らいつこうというところで無粋に起こされて目を覚ますの。それは
Shireen has been a tremendously long one. I must have been sleeping for more than a year.
私は1年以上も眠っていたことになる。そう。
Oh, that's right. I ran away from baseball
私は
practice. I stepped
監
on the
督
street
の
when
野
the
球
light
チ
was
ームの
red
試合
and
の
got hit by a
後、
motorcycle.
有頂天に駆け出して
I've been in a coma since
赤
then,
信号
but
の
I
横断
finally
歩
woke
道に
up.
踊り出してバイクにはねられてしまった。それでずっと1年以上も意識が
Is this
戻らな
supposed to
くて
be Satoshi's perspective?
ようやく目
Like,
が覚
is
め
this
るの。
supposed to be Shion?
まぶたを開けた
When I
時
open my... No.
そ
Okay.
こには
Yeah. Okay.
病
This
院
is
の
like
天井が
her
飛び込
dying
んで
wish,
て
basically.
それから
I didn't
ず
know
っ
if
と
this
看
was
病
like
し
an
ててくれた
implication
サトシ君が覗き込んで
about
く
what
れ
happened to
て
Satoshi. When I open my eyes, I see a hospital ceiling and
さ
Satoshi
す
Kun
が
looks at
に
me
こ
from
れ
the
は出来す
bedside.
ぎか。
That's a bit too perfect. Now that I think about it, that's clearly Shion
でも
talking.
いい
But
よ
it's
ね。
okay, right? It's okay
そ
for
ういう
that
こ
to
とに
end
し
that
ても
way, right?
いいよね。
I'm
生
sorry
まれてきて
that I was born.
ごめんな
Fuck,
さい。
man. Right now, look, maybe I'm gonna look at this in the future and be like, she guilty. Like, it's her for real. And I feel so bad right now. Maybe in the future I'll be like, bad take. But breakdown of all persons involved with or linked to the series of deaths in Hinamizawa. Tamai Hojo died by a homicide by blunt trauma within the village on June 20th, 1982. Case closed. Satoshi Hojo, believed to have disappeared from the village on June 24th, 1982. Whereabouts unknown. Actually, having dates might be kind of helpful. Jiro Tomitake, believed to have committed suicide on June 19th, 1983. Death resembles that of Rika Furude on June 22nd. Investigation ongoing. So they actually know that. That's interesting. Mio Takano, death by strangulation in the mountains of Gifu Prefecture on June 19th, 1983. Corpse was found incinerated. Investigation ongoing. Oryo Sonozaki, murdered by Shion Sonozaki on June 20th, 1983. Cause of death believed to be shock induced by stun gun. Violently abused post-mortem. Head shows signs of extreme laceration. Rika Furude, believed to have been murdered by Shion on June 22nd, 1983. Cause of death was shock due to the extreme hemorrhaging caused by lacerations to the throat. Death resembles that of Jiro Tomitake's on June 19th. Investigation ongoing. Kichiro Kimiyoshi, murdered by Shion on June 22nd, 1983. Cause of death was ligature strangulation induced by restraints. Sataka Hojo, murdered by Shion Sonozaki on June 22nd, 1983. Cause of death is shock due to hemorrhaging induced by multiple penetration wounds. Mion Sonozaki, murdered by Shion Sonozaki on June 22nd, 1983. Cause of death is severe trauma due to impact after falling down a vertical tunnel. Keiichi Maibara, stabbed by Shion Sonozaki on June 30th, 1983. That's a bigger gap than I thought. Victim was severely injured but is recuperating in the hospital. Reina Ryugu, last accounted for in 2004, currently resides in Shishibone City. Kurado Oichi, last accounted for in 2004. Wow, we're in the future! Currently resides in Hokkaido. Tetsuya Kumagai, accounted for in 2004, Shishibone City. Irie Kyosuke, last accounted for in 2004, address unknown. Kasai, died of liver cancer in 2002. Oof. Ichiro Maibara, accounted for in 2004, resides in Tokyo. Same with Aiko Maibara. Daiki Tomita. Those are Matt and Okumura, those are the kids. Okumura, not Okumura. It's not Persona. Okay. That's interesting. Keiichi Maibara, he ultimately died he died a few days later. Wow. This is the day I think that Oishi probably was there. That's crazy. Died in a hospital on July 3rd of acute heart failure. Shion, cause of death is severe trauma due to the impact of falling from the balcony of her apartment. A suspect for serial murders, which began on June 20, 1983, fell to her death from the balcony of her apartment, which she hastily rented to conceal her identity. Following her death, police filed charges against her for the 5 murders began with Oryo Sonozaki. So they did figure it out. They did ultimately figure it out. Wait, how did the police file charges on her after she was dead? What good? I mean, I guess what, like, is that like symbolic? Is that like a thing that happens? Like, dead murderers still have, like, charges pressed? Seems a little pointless to me. Okay, what are we gonna see now?
よっしゃー、お昼だお昼。そらレナ、机をくっつけろ。
What is this?
今日はレナのお弁当はミートボールなんだよ。
おお、そりゃいいね。おじさんもぜひいただくよ。ほらリカちゃん、机。
くっつけるのですよ。
Which perspective are we from? Is this like Satoko, or is this gonna be like, what if Shion was there?
ペター。
Lived a normal life with them type thing. Okay, maybe that's where we're going with this.
残念なことにミートボールは私も大好物でございましたよ。
I mean, like, this is a scene that we actually saw, right?
皆さんに一口でも口に入るとは思わないことでしたよ。
残念。
Okay.
そうはいかないです、さとこ。
So is this like a what if Shion had a normal school life with them?
明らかに野菜不足のさとこには特別にかぼちゃ弁当を用意させてもらいました。
うわ、そりゃいじめだぞシオン。
ふわあ、かぼちゃは嫌ですの。
ほら、そのかぼちゃ嫌いはダメです。かぼちゃはですね、育ち盛りのさとこは特に栄養に気を使わないといけないんですよ。私の目の黒いうちは変色は認めないので、その覚悟でお願いします。ほらほら、みんなもどうぞどうぞ。ほこほこのかぼちゃって甘くて美味しいんですよ。
もにゅもにゅ。さとこ、これなら甘くて美味しいのですよ。
お、確かにこりゃいけるな。かぼちゃの甘みが嫌味なく、それでいて絶妙で。さとこ、お前は食うな、もったいない。
なんですって？かぼちゃは嫌いですけど、言い方が気に入りませんわ。
That is a little crazy.
そら言った言った。一口にガバッと言ってみなよ。
ほらね、美味しいでしょ？まあ食べれなくもないですわね。
当たり前です。さとこがかぼちゃ嫌いを克服できるように日夜研究してますので。さて、この調子で今年中にナス、ピーマン、アスパラガスと制覇していきましょう。
冗談はごめんですわ。私が沖宮の学校に転校しましたよ。
ダメです。サトシくんから頼まれている以上、健康管理は私の担当です。
Duh. That's what this is.
不摂生も許しませんから、そのつもりで。
A scenario where Shion is taking care of Satoko.
シオンさん嫌い。かぼちゃ嫌。
Is that my thumbnail? It might have to be, unless I want it to be blatant spoilers with Shion's corpse on the ground, which I try to avoid that. It doesn't really fit the vibe of the episode, but I guess it I mean, obviously it fits the end because that's where it was, but... Scenario jump mode has been unlocked. Game features a scenario jump mode. You may replay any scenario you've completed before from the start menu on the main title screen. Oh, is that just a chapter jump? Tips reading room has been unlocked. Yep. Thank you message for purchasing the game. To go there, select extra on the title menu, then pick the staff room option. I guess I'll see what that is. Whoa, there's two more? Were there tips at the end of other chapters? I don't think that was a thing. All right, let's check out the extras. We'll just make this all into one big video. Like it'll fit. I'm guessing the staff room is the interesting. So maybe this is some of the stuff there at the end, right? Like some of the some extra conclusion that we didn't see. But I'm guessing the staff room is the all cast review session. Let's read a happy diary.
ええ、葛西氏が踏み込んだ時には室内は無人でベランダへの窓が開きっぱなし。その時が飛び降り時刻です。それでその真下の5階エレベーターフロアの屋根に一度落ちて脳震盪。そのしばらく後に横に転がって再落下、死亡。葛西氏が飛び降りを疑って地上を調べた時に遺体が見つからなかったのは、この時点ではエレベーターフロアの屋根の上で混沌中だったからです。前原圭一が刺されたのはほぼ同じ頃。その頃には園崎紫音はすでに飛び降りていて、屋根の上で脳震盪中？
That doesn't make sense.
違いますね。ベランダから抜け出して前原圭一を刺してベランダへまた戻る時に誤って落下じゃないかな。
Yeah.
悪いけど周辺の部屋のベランダとかも調べ直してください。
おいさん、3番にお電話です。
はいはい、どちら様から？
佐藤と伝えればわかるとか、合言葉は論と言えと。
なもしもし。ああ、佐藤さんですか。こっちへ電話ということはいい知らせでしょうね。
An informant got in contact with me and you were right after
う
all.
ん。ありがとうございます。今度フラワーロ
なんです今の電話。麻雀の誘いですか？
ビンゴ。園崎姉妹は逆なんです。ミオンがシオンでシオンがミオン。入れ墨入れる時に間違って逆にやっちゃって取り返しがつかなくなったらしい。だからこのノートのミオンとシオンは逆に読むんです。それでならサトシ君とシオンさん、いやミオンさん、ややこしいなの関係が理解できる。
ノートって先日の大石さん宛てと書かれて郵便ポストに投函されてたっていう買いノートのことですか？
The one we've been reading all the
中
tips
身は
from.
めちゃくちゃで捜査撹乱の恐れありって言いませんでしたっけ？
もちろん名前の入れ替えが分かったところで撹乱の域を出ませんがね。このノートどこまで信じていいのやら。もし本当なら古出理香の死のあたりが怪しすぎるからな。
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly the biggest mystery I think that was given to us this chapter.
異常者の日記ですよ。読んでるとこっちまで変になりそうです。最後のページの生まれてきてごめんなさいなんて読んでるとこっちまで飛び降りたくなりますよ。
でも幸せな日記じゃないですか。
幸せですか？
この日記だけでサトシ君って名前何回くらい出てくると思います？シオンさんは本当にサトシ君のことが好きだったんだなって。
Yeah.
その好きというのがね、若さゆえの勘違いでずれちゃって。
I think Oishi put that pretty well, actually. Summarized a lot of Shion's character this chapter, right there. Dang, that's kind of sad. And look, again, if this is something like... Either way, it's kind of tragic, in my opinion, right? If it was just she went actually insane, and not in the she's kind of being controlled by something way, that was just her. I mean, it's tragic that things got to that point because it's partially a situation of her environment. Does that justify her actions? No, of course not, right? But, like, it is still kind of tragic, right? If it's something not really in her control, right, and it was just that hatred, or not hatred, that love of Satoshi, which, I mean, was obviously not meant to be and things went horribly wrong, right? Turned into sadness and then eventually hatred, and if that awoken like a literal demon, if that's being literal, then I mean, again, hard for me to not feel bad for her, but like, it sounds like the diary, like, I don't know, like you said, it just, like, it's a happy diary, right? And like she really loved him, like, which, yeah, all of her emotions got warped because she couldn't process what happened to him, you know? And again, whether it was literally her fault, everything she did, or whether it wasn't, it's still a little tragic in my opinion. So let's read Disowned.
ねえ、教えてよ母さん。鬼ババとどういう喧嘩をしたわけ？
I actually am curious to see this.
感動されるなんてよっぽどだったわけでしょ？
お前もくだらないことに興味が尽きないね。ま、そろそろ話してもわからない年じゃないか。実はね、父さんと結婚したいって言ったらね。
え？何それ？
私も当時はだいぶしゃない生き方してて呆れられててね。その挙句連れてきた男が人気者だったわけでしょ。そりゃ大喧嘩よ。いい名付けは当主が決めるなんて言われて、そんなの知ったこっかいこんなクソババア、この場で切り伏せたらって大立ち回りよ。
Jesus.
互いに板の間の日本刀抜いてちゃんちゃんバラバラ。
You're lying. No, you're actually lying. Yeah, you're messing with Shion.
ひえ、鬼ババと盾を演じたわけ？母さんやるね。
まあね、母さんこう見えても若い頃は武闘派だし。
No way you're not making this up.
互いに剣道有段だからそりゃあド派手だったわよ。周りはおろおろ。面白かった。
なるほどね。その騒ぎのせいで感動されたわけ？
そうよ、感動上等。遠慮なく感動もらって父さんと籍を入れたわよ。ま、けじめってことで爪を剥がされたけどね。ほら、左手の爪だけいびつでしょ。
うわあ、それで鬼ババと母さんはずっと仲が悪いわけだね。
No, that's it. I believe Mion. Like, seriously, if this is true, I believe Mion. Right? Because think about it. Like, to me, if their mother had the exact same thing happen, there was a relationship that was not approved of, right? And it was a big thing, and she eventually got over it. For the most part, you know, like, they weren't tight. They weren't exactly, like, best buds after this, but it's not like she went and literally stopped it. Like, she begrudgingly approved after the fingernails, right? And if she had Shion go through the same exact thing, it wasn't some trick like, ooh, Satoshi isn't one of the three, right? I believe she would have let it. Like, that makes sense to me. And so to me, that says she genuinely didn't do it, right? I don't know.
シオン、本当はね、そんなことないの。私と鬼ババ様は
They did get over
仲
it!
がいいんだよ。
And they completely got over it!
嘘だー。
鬼ババ様には面倒な世間体があるからね。一度でも感動した以上、甘くすると示しがつかないし。だから私も親類会議とかではおとなしく引っ込んでるけど、たまに遊びに行ってのんびりお茶とか飲んでるよ。
She was gonna let Shion be, but she just had to keep up appearances. Like, that's the way I see it. I don't know, maybe Oreo's really not a villain after all. Like, I mean, you know, obviously the kidnapping Toshiki Inukai, that thing was messed up, but...
嘘だー。
実はね、内緒よ。鬼ババ様もね、その昔けじめで爪を剥いだことあるんだってよ。今度会ったら左手の爪をよく見てごらん。
ひえ、鬼ババは何をやったわけ？
そうね、母さんは知らない。
あ、その顔は知ってるな。教えてよ。
In my mind, it's the same as Mion. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was something else. But, like, in my mind, it's the same thing. Right? Like, maybe, like, felt bad. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe it was just something in the past, but that's the way I initially see it. Dude, I really, really believe Mion, which obviously makes this chapter so much more tragic, right? Like, oh man, let's go to the staff room. I'm guessing this is all cast review session, like I said, but we'll check this out. This is a little different. Do you think that murder can be justified, depending on the motive? Hi, this is Ryukishi 07. I knew his name, or I knew the author's name, I just didn't know how to say it. Thank you for playing Higurashi When They Cry, Kai, Ch.5, Meakashi, I think is how someone said to say it. Although I depict many deaths in my work, I often ask myself a question. That question is there such a thing as justifiable murder? In our world, murder is prosecuted, and the degree of punishment varies depending on the motive and circumstances. Having different degrees of punishment means that we're putting a value on the dead person's life. Some scenes justify murder in Higurashi. By degrading the life of the victim in those scenes, the player can sympathize with the character more easily. The degree of sympathy would be different from person to person. The people who could sympathize probably felt catharsis, and the people who disagreed with the character might have felt uncomfortable. That's indicated by how opinions were polarized regarding Keiichi's actions in Tatarigoroshi. Tatarigoroshi. Chapter 3. In Meakashi, there are also a number of murders, but this time the main character, Shion, tries to earn sympathy for each one of them. How did you feel? How much were you able to sympathize with her? So this is my take on it. This is just a personal thing. Look, if she was of relatively right mind and wasn't literally having some demon really strongly influence her actions, and that was just what she, felt she had to do, because of her past trauma, I'm going to be honest, no, it's hard to sympathize with that. Look, I can objectively say your past was traumatic and that it led you to this point, but that does not make your actions justifiable, right? Again, though, this obviously all changes if she was not of right mind, controlling her actions. I feel like that's a completely different thing. If you couldn't sympathize with her at all, then please berate her as a crazy murderer. If you sympathized with her at all, then please have mercy on her. If you sympathized with her almost entirely, then please have mercy on her. If you completely sympathize with her, then please let us berate both of you as crazy murderers. Lol. What about me? Well, that's a secret. I'd like to reverse my question this time. What kind of murderer could you sympathize with if you were to be killed? A murderer who doesn't care about people's lives? That'd be quite a regrettable death. It's extremely sad to be killed in denial of all your values. A murderer who begs for forgiveness and tears? That'd be quite regrettable too. They shouldn't kill you at all if they're begging for your forgiveness. So what kind of murderer could you sympathize with? In the end, sympathy might just be a method for making the story more interesting. If you can sympathize, it's fun. Kinda true, actually. If you can't sympathize, they're just crazy. We cannot put value on human life. It's a sin to even try doing so. A murder is a murder. Nothing more than that. I just hope everybody can live happily together. How does that sound? Would you agree to that? If you wouldn't. Thank you very much for playing Higurashi When They Cry, Kai, Chapter 5, Meakashi. I can only bring out this 5th episode thanks to all of your support. Higurashi will only get more intense as it approaches the finale. Nothing would make me happier than if you continued reading the chapters to come. The next chapter will be titled... oh lord. Sumi Horoboshi. Sumi Horoboshi. That's how I'm saying it. If I'm wrong, correct me, I guess. Really, I'm rather fortunate if you've enjoyed yourself even a little. Thank you again for playing. I hope this has brought a little color to your life. 07th expansion, Ryukishi 07. So it doesn't mean there's no all-cast review sessions anymore. Let me look around. Did I miss that? That's a little sad. Those were fun. I mean, that was like thought-provoking, right? A little bit. Like, I liked that little segment, but I liked the all-cast review sessions. It doesn't look like they exist. Oh, that's a little sad. I mean, like, yeah, like there's nothing else. There's nowhere else to go unless it's in like chapter jump for some reason. Okay, so the last thing we're gonna do before I start to talk about the chapter as a whole for the most part, because I feel like at this point I've already kind of talked mostly about this episode, all of my thoughts on it. What am I doing? I think I quick saved at the decision marker, right? Yeah, I did. I kind of want to see what happens. This is, we chose to, what, acknowledge his gaze, it said? Keiichi, let's just load again. I didn't actually really read what that said. I don't know why I did that.
ケイちゃんの若い悲鳴をたっぷりと楽しみな。
At that time, I became aware of Keiichi's gaze. Yeah.
いい加減にしろ。
Keiichi's growl resounded from the pits of his stomach. What a delightful sound. It was like he wanted to rip me
よ
apart.
うやくお目覚め。私さっき嘘をついたね。シオンを一番むごたらしく殺してやろうと思って閉じ込めておいた。あれが嘘。
Smiled menacingly as I laid out the huge nails and hammer specially made for the nail
あ
table.
の子に自分のせいで死ぬ大勢の人の悲鳴をたっぷりと聞かせて、体の芯まで染み通らせてから殺すの。なかなかセンスいいでしょ。
お前は誰だ？
は？ミオンでその座恐怖で頭が変。
This is kind of playing out the same so far.
その崎ミオンであるはずがな
I'm
い。
just gonna keep going until it seems actually different. Oh well, whatever. Bring it on. I'll listen to you. This is your last chance.
じゃあ私がミオンじゃなかったら私は誰なわけ？
I don't think this was here. I don't know. And then I heard it. I most definitely heard it. Keiichi's mouth trembled as he spoke the words, yet his eyes shone with a strong conviction. Is he going to say Shion? And he spoke the
Shion.
truth. Yeah.
だな。
Wow. You're right. You actually won. You're amazing, Kei-chan. A strange feeling fills my chest as I shiver. I had convinced myself that there was no way he could guess. But he did, and I couldn't help feeling a bit surprised. This Keiichi had yet again pierced through my
お
disguise.
前はミオンじゃない。さっきまで一緒だったミオンを返せ。
Who are you?
え？
You aren't Mion, right?
え？だから私ミオン。
No, that's not it. That wasn't what I meant. You aren't Mion.
どうして私がお姉じゃないって思うんですか？
I don't know. Just a feeling. In my mind, memories of the time Keiichi recognized me at the toy store had been revived. Yes, even back then, Keiichi could tell that I wasn't my sister Shion. I'd feigned composure and offered to come back with a straight face, but on the inside I was shook. We were both capable of becoming Mion or Shion, but because I was the real Mion and was only Shion legally on paper, reversing the roles was even more easier for me. Our tones of speech, quirks, and even our auras, we both mastered each other's habits so perfectly even our own parents were unable to tell us apart. In fact, wasn't that exceptionally sharp Renna not able to figure out I wasn't her best friend Mion after all, despite being so close? So why? Is this Keiichi actually seen through my disguise twice?
どうして私がお姉じゃないって思うんですか？
My ears perked up, eager to hear the answer. Keiichi's reply was a soft murmur like an insect's whisper as he gasped for breath and pain. His voice was so quiet it was nearly inaudible, but I could almost recognize the words on his lips. Yes, just a feeling, he says.
へえ。
Yet again, it was just a feeling. Didn't he say the exact same thing to me that time at the toy store? How nice, how nice. What a splendid answer. You'd think why my sister of all people fell in love with him. Okay, now we go in murder mode. However, no, rather it was exactly because of this. Along with my raving madness, the blood that was simmering in my veins until just now rapidly began to turn chill and coagulate. If I were to describe it, it felt like stagnant, muddy water flowing through a gutter. Even now, it was all so hilarious I could fall over laughing, but I didn't smile. On the contrary, my face was vacant and austere, like a no mask of frigid ice. And then, the darkness seeped into the innermost depths of my mind, and I was already parting with my self-restraint as a human being. I reached out and touched Keiichi's hair, matted with sweat and caked with blood. Keiichi whips his head away at once in disgust, as if he were staving off a housefly, and glares at me defiantly.
触るな！この鬼め！返せ！ミオンを返せよ！俺の最高の友人だった！ミオンを返せ！
Having lost liberty over his whole body, he continued to howl and cry as if he were spewing blood. I was supposed to have sold my soul to the devil and become a demon, but faced with such a bitter rejection, I felt the crumbled remnants of my emotions stir within me. Munch, munch, crunch, munch, crunch, munch, crunch. My throat begins to itch. The crooks of my elbows, my wrists, and every other joint in my body begins to tingle and prickle, and I feel irrationally restless. The more the restlessness and irritation piled up, the more this squalling, whimpering person beside me felt bothersome, revolting, so awful I could slaughter him right away. To be frank, until just now, I had no intention of killing Keiichi. I was truly ready to spare at least his life, if he guessed the right answer. That was the rule I had decided upon. Okay, I'll admit it. Just like Shion, I had also fallen in love with Keiichi. He was incredibly silly and good-natured, unbelievably warm-hearted and gentle. Talking to him made me feel contented. Besides, I even sympathized with him. Unlike the lot I dealt with so far, Keiichi was indeed just a victim, caught up in my selfish revenge drama. Now that my revenge against the Sonozaki family was almost complete, I didn't mind saving him. That may sound too convenient, but perhaps the human side of me that was fond of Keiichi wanted to save him, in order to seek his forgiveness for my actions. But I've changed my mind. Having witnessed Keiichi guess the right answer before my very eyes, my heart was suffused with a stinging, gaping, overpowering darkness, as if it were freezing over. Why? Why was Shion able to meet such a wonderful person? Satoshi-kun could only make a vague distinction between me and Shion. Satoshi-kun abandoned me and ran away. However, this Keiichi trusts Shion. He is defending Shion, whom he values as his best friend, by seeing through my lies. And as a result, he gave up on me. Detestable? I think that's just supposed to be detestable. Maddening, despicable, enviable. So much so that I want to kill them. That's right. The moment he defended Shion, he became one of them. He's equally guilty. You low-life scum, I despise you, 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 you fucking piece of shit. Okay. Well, I have bad news for you. Munch, crunch, munch, crunch, munch, crunch. Ah, what a nuisance. Shion's screams coming from the corner of the chamber were enjoyable before, but now they felt unbearably noisy and pissed me off. How about I just get rid of Shion first? I wanted to kill her after she had the most exquisite taste of anguish and terror, but now I could barely suppress the indiscriminate urge to slaughter welling up within me. Keiichi was relentlessly yelling his protests towards me. His throat closed up eventually and he gasped for breath, hoarsely continuing to demand Mion's return.
ケイちゃん、メイドの土産なんて気の利いたものじゃないけれど、どうしても知りたがっているようだから。私の中に鬼が宿ったのはずいぶん前。その鬼は私だけれど、鬼はそれで収まり。でも、私の中から出て行ったんじゃなく、
Yes, when I learned about
私の
Satoshi-kun's
中で眠っ
disappearance,
ていただけだったの。
my ailing heart had crammed itself with rage to compensate for the despair. I mean, like, that's just the same speech that we just saw. I didn't think I needed to go through that. But that was the limit of my insanity. I would never have snapped. Debatable. Time had healed me, and my memories of Satoshi-kun were neatly wrapped up and pushed into the back of my mind.
その鬼は、ある小さなことをきっかけに、それは、
It really was the smallest of the smallest things. I'm being a little impatient. If I'm gonna play this, I'll just go through.
鬼の私が教えるのも変だけれど、
Even if I've seen this speech like 3
あん
times.
たがすべておかしくしてしまった元凶。
A tear rolled down my cheek. That's right. Back then, if you hadn't given that doll to Mion, none of this would have happened. You mean if you had?
ケイちゃんには理解できないだろうね。理解できなくて当然。だけどね、そこからドミノ倒しみたいに、パタパタパタと、いろんなものが倒れ始めて、はじめの小さな一つを倒したあなたに自覚がないのは当然だろうけど、あなたが元凶なの。
Back then, if Keiichi hadn't shown any affection, Shion wouldn't have been overjoyed. She wouldn't have been overjoyed and cheerfully boasted about him to me. As I was listening to her, I was reminded of Satoshi-kun. No, is this actually like the opposite scenario? He actually gives her the doll, and the same thing happens? What, because now she's just straight up jealous? I became jealous of her for having someone she loved so close to her. It was a very small jealousy, but it had awoken the demon who was sleeping deep inside of me. After that, I just let the demon take over. The demon fed upon the copious amounts of sadness I held for Satoshi-kun, and in return I committed heinous acts that Satoshi-kun himself would never be happy with, all in the name of avenging him. And now, the horrific events that had followed were inviting me to the realm of demons that had no return.
そんな嘘だろ。
自覚がないのは当然。でも、紛れもなく元凶なのはケイちゃん。
Back then, if you hadn't chosen to give the doll to Mion, we could have arrived at a different future. Apparently not. No, that wasn't right. Wouldn't pinpointing Keiichi's small action as the beginning be the height of transferring blame? I was implying such a silly thing had awoken the demon inside me. Even without Keiichi's act, it would have awoken either way. Anyway, at the end of the day, it was all my fault. I didn't fight the demon. I allowed it to reside in my soul, and I readily offered it my heart. Keiichi didn't hide his tears. I did this last time, too. They were pouring down his cheeks. Maybe he was crying in my place, as I was not free to do so, having chosen to become a tearless demon. Actually, you know what I want to see? Sorry. I just want to, how much longer is this segment? That is why I must go on as the demon. Oh, I can't actually skip. Whatever, I'm gonna go back, whatever. That is why I must go on as the demon. There was no room for human emotions or hesitation anymore. And then, munch, crunch, munch, crunch, munch, crunch, snap! Shion's wails rasping like silk tearing apart, along with my screams of ecstasy. The last thing I heard were those everlasting reverberations. Okay, so that's like the alternate scenario. By my understanding, I should not really put any stock into those alternate scenarios. Okay, is this going to be the exact same? Sorry, we're just going to... I think this is the exact same. I just want to see if there's like a different conclusion. Wait, what? Oh, never mind. Sorry, things did change. Starting from here. I've been lured into the crime scene and sustained stab wounds perpetrated by the suspect. Alright. Alright, my bad. Things changed. I'm not going to skip through it all. Case of serial disappearances occurred in June 1983. A case of serial disappearances occurred in Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone City. The suspect is Shion Sonozaki. Allegedly, she abducted, imprisoned, and killed 4 Hinamizawa residents, Oryo Sonozaki, Kichiro Kimiyoshi, Rika Furude, and Satoko Hojo, between June 19th and the 21st. Preliminary investigation into the incident was delayed at the time due to insufficient evidence, but, by chance, the case was solved rather abruptly. On the morning of the 22nd, a patrol vehicle stationed outside the Sonozaki mansion heard screams from within, and personnel infiltrated the premises as an emergency measure. The suspect's missing elder sister, Mion Sonozaki, and 2 of her classmates, Keiichi Maibara and Reina Ryugu, were taken into custody. However, Keiichi Maibara, who had previously been lured into the crime scene, had sustained stab wounds perpetrated by the suspect. He was immediately transferred to an emergency unit, but they were diagnosed as a minor injury. Having been the one with the utmost opportunity to engage in conversation with the suspect until the very end, he'll be subject to interrogation once he has recovered from the shock. Furthermore, the apprehended suspect was found collapsed at a place approximately 2 meters away from where Keiichi Maibara was restrained and sustained scratch wounds on her throat. She was also transferred to an emergency facility but was pronounced dead at 13:48 on the 22nd. What? Scratched her throat out. The official autopsy determines that the immediate cause of death was hemorrhagic shock due to excessive loss of blood. Hair, pieces of skin, and blood of the 4 missing people, Oryo Sonozaki, Kichiro Kimiyoshi, Rika Furude, and Satoko Hojo, were recovered from the hidden chamber that was discovered in the outbuilding basement of the Sonozaki family property, where they were supposedly killed. It was concluded that the victims were assaulted in that hidden chamber. The victims' bodies were discovered at the bottom of an old well, as per the testimony of the victim, Mion Sonozaki. In addition, investigations continue into any possible connections to the series of mysterious deaths in recent years, but no evidence of Shion Sonozaki's direct or indirect involvement has been found. There are still many obscurities to the motive behind the incident, and due to extreme non-cooperation from the Sonozaki family and residents of Hinamizawa, a large amount of time will be required to clarify matters on this front. The local police who are familiar with the region offer that this may have been an internal lynching incident, as punishment for sacrilegious acts carried out against Hinamizawa's religious beliefs. It has been established that this incident is unique and rooted in the regional community beliefs, and a cautious investigation has been ordered by the prefectural police. We expected to gain valuable hints from the missing person and the suspect's sister, Mion Sonozaki, who was under confinement for the longest time period. It was observed that she had sustained severe mental trauma from the incident, and her inquiry had been postponed in favor of her psychological and physical recovery. According to her primary care physician, although her condition is fairly serious, there's a strong prospect of recovery, and she is at present undergoing rehabilitation with support from her close friends. Several weeks have passed since then. After that incident, I was rescued by Oishi-san and his team, whom Rena had summoned. I had no other after effects aside from my consciousness that had been wiped white. If I were to have any at all, it would have been the deep scars that had been left inside my heart. As I was being examined at the hospital, I was subjected to various queries from Oishi-san. I tried to answer him with whatever little I knew, but I had no idea if it met his expectations, and neither did I bear any responsibility to do so. From what I had heard, Shion had already lost too much blood by the time the police had arrived, and she had stopped breathing. They urgently called for an ambulance and took her to the clinic, where there was barely any time for the first aid, and she took her last breath. The silver lining was that Mion, who had been captive in her cell, was safe and taken into custody by the police. Up until the moment I lost consciousness, I was afraid that Shion may fly into a rage and murder Mion. But I was just glad we had managed to avoid the worst-case scenario. Only, when Mion was rescued, she was emaciated and had sustained severe psychological trauma. Apparently at the time of her rescue, she had been completely unable to respond to the police's questions. Right now, Mion is admitted at a large hospital in the vicinity and undergoing treatment for her psychological and physical injuries. In the beginning, when Rena and I went to visit, her eyes were downcast in desolation and she looked completely worn out. It was a horrible state to be in. But despite it all, as of late, she's on her way to recovery, finally well enough to show us a few smiles. Of course, we've been careful to not bring up Satoko or Rika-chan, and especially Shion. The police later conducted an on-site investigation at the Sonozaki house's underground storehouse several days after the incident took place. Particularly, the well inside which Satoko and Rika-chan's body were disposed of by Shion was carefully surveyed by the prefectural forensic investigators, and true to Shion's testimony, the girls were discovered. Apparently, sediment had accumulated at the bottom of the well, and hence the discovery had taken several days. Along with Satoko and the other victims, skeletal remains that were several years, even several decades old, were found. But it's not like I would know much about that. Even I was once summoned back to that place to assist with the crime scene investigation, but I didn't really help them find anything important. The Sonozaki family in Okonomiya, in other words, Mion and Shion's parents, came home every day several times, and along with many of their followers, to formally apologize. And no matter how much my parents refused, they kept piling up banknotes worth millions of yen as compensation. And once that money had piled up and reached a certain amount, on the same day, there came an envelope with a letter instead. I have no idea what was written in that letter, but my parents had discussed amongst themselves for 2 nights straight without consulting me, and decided we would move away from Hinamizawa.
そっか。
Okay, this is resembling the end of chapter 2 now. I'm kind of curious how this alternate scenario is going to end up.
引っ越しちゃうんだね。いつ？
来月の終わり、ひなみ沢には結局、半年も居つかなかったことになるな。
寂しくなるね。きっとみーちゃんも悲しむよ。
悪い。ミオンにも、正直話すべきか、迷ってる。
Once Rena had heard me say that, she strongly insisted I had to tell her, no matter what.
確かに、今みーちゃんにそれを告げるのは酷なのかもしれない。でも、ケイチくんが黙っていなくなっちゃう方が、きっとみーちゃんは辛いと思う。
Yeah, probably.
だから、一緒に話しに行こう。
ああ、そうだな。
あ、そっか。ケイちゃん、ひなみ沢からいなくなっちゃうんだ。
Even though she had heard it from me, Mion whispered those words sadly, but she didn't seem that surprised. Surely she had mentally prepared herself for this outcome somewhere inside her heart.
すまん。けど俺、いつかひなみ沢に戻ってくるつもりだ。約束する。
いいよ。無理しなくても、ここに来ても、きっとケイちゃんにいいことなんて何もないんだから。
みーちゃん。
Both Rena and I wanted to say it wasn't so, but after such a tragic incident, what verbal consolation could we offer that would help to Mion, who had suffered a much greater pain than we ever had? And so we just stood there, unable to say anything, just wallowing in silence.
私も東京に行こうかな。
え？
来週退院できるらしいんだけど、ここにいてもいいことあんまりないし、東京でなくてもどこか遠く、私のこともひなみ沢のことも知らない土地に行きたい。
Dang, gonna leave Rena alone.
やり直せるなんて都合のいいことは考えてないけど、もう疲れちゃった。全部投げ出したいよ。
ミオン。
Mio had been forced to carry the name of the next head of the Sonozaki family and the representatives of the Greet. Wow. Greet? Mion had been forced to carry the name of the next head of the Sonozaki family and the representative of the three great families, all due to a small misunderstanding. Despite feeling uncertain and wary about her unplanned responsibility, she had nevertheless been earnest and given her all to fulfill her duties. But to think, all of that had been concluded in such a manner. It was such a tremendous loss that it's almost a surprise that she hasn't completely lost her mind. Who can really blame Mion anymore for making such a faint-hearted remark? And so I wanted to devote even a little bit of my remaining time here for her.
そうだな、ミオン。一緒にどこか行くか。
That's bold.
え？どこへ？
決まってるだろ。旅行だよ。俺がここにいられる期間はもうあまりないけど、だったらせめて少しでもいい思い出を取り返しておかないとな。
No, I mean he's right though. That's like, I mean that would be the right thing to do in that spot.
東京はちょっと遠いけど、大きな町とかに足を伸ばしてうまい飯とか買い物とかさ。どうだ？
どうって言われても。
Rena, if you don't like force her to say yes.
それとってもいいと思うな。行っておいでよ、みーちゃん。ね。
けど、レナ、一緒に来てくれないの？
After hearing that, even I grow puzzled. Hadn't I suggested all three of us hang out together? They thought you just asked her out, bro. Bro, I mean, it did... Come on. It really did look like you just took your shot right there.
だって、レナは馬になんて蹴られたくないもん。だから、二人っきりでどうぞ。あ、お土産買ってきてくれると嬉しいな。
Boom! Mion blushes vigorously. I was slow to react because I didn't understand what Rena was getting at, but seeing Mion's face imbued with color after a long time, my heartbeat grew faster for a moment. No. It wasn't what I implied when I suggested the idea, but depending on the point of view, wouldn't this be an invitation to a date?
いかん。ちょっと調子に乗りすぎたかも。
No, you're not. Indeed, after seeing it that way, I was overcome with embarrassment. There was no way I could back out after coming this far. This was all for Mion's sake. Pull yourself together, Keiichi Maibara.
どうだ、ミオン。あ、もちろん医者と親御さんにはちゃんと了解を取るつもりだぜ。あんまり無理はさせないつもりだから考えておいてくれよ。
わかった。考えておくね。
はうー、みーちゃんが久々に可愛いよ。嬉しいな、嬉しいな。はうはうはう。
After that, we spent the day talking about harmless stuff that happened at school or in the neighborhood until it was evening. I felt like Mion had regained some of her spirit and acted a bit like she used to, so I was happy. After a few days, Mion had contacted me to say she was okay with my plan. After spending a few more days to convince my folks and Mion's parents, we set off on a day's trip to a metropolis that had one of those bullet train stations. This like alternate scenario is a lot longer than I expected. I kind of see why people told me to like not have them on, because if I went through all of this not knowing that like this is not like canon, okay, well I would have realized, to be fair, I would have realized almost certainly. I mean, I guess no, that's not true. I guess maybe I could have thought it was just a bit of canon divergence, right? I don't know, like with the doll.
しばらく見ないうちに、
As in
こ
like
こってすごく大きくなったんだね。
when I say canon divergence, more like chapter 5. Oh, chapter 5 and chapter 2 aren't exactly the same, right? Like, as soon as she stepped out of the station, Mion set eyes on the scenery sprawling with people and cars. She shared her feelings and excitement as she looked on admiringly. From what I heard, unless it's on very important business, Mion rarely gets to leave the village, let alone come out to a big city like this. Because of that, everything she saw looked fresh and fascinating to her, and she pranced around merrily, almost like a child.
ねえねえ、ケイちゃん、これからどこに行くの？
そうだな。ミオンの好みから考えて、あそこはどうだ？
The place I was pointing to, when I had checked out in advance, was a massive, beautifully decorated game arcade that towered over a corner of the station shopping square.
なかなか盛大に遊び回ったな。
面白かったあんなにゲームで遊んだの本当に久しぶりだよ。
As I sat down on the bench, Mion was gleefully draining her can of juice with a huge smile. That expression was unlike the gloomy one Mion had worn at the hospital. Next to me was the Mion I knew well. Earlier we'd had a blast, vowing to conquer all the game consoles in the vicinity and made quite the ruckus, without caring about the people watching. Mion was enjoying herself playing on consoles she wasn't used to and had gone on a rampage, laughing out loud, getting worked up, and challenging me to matches. Although I couldn't help thinking about what-ifs as I was playing with her. About how much fun it would have been if only it weren't just the two of us, but also Rena, Satoko, and Rika-chan as well. I'm sure Mion must have been thinking the same thing, which was also why I outdid myself, making so much noise, trying to battle the loneliness. When I had realized...
なあ、ミオン。
何ケイちゃん
With faint drops of sweat coating her forehead, Mion turned to face me with a broad smile. Mion's cheerfulness was most likely just her being considerate towards me for having brought her here. If that was so, then I needed to do the same for her.
お前、全部初めてって言ってたけど、それ本当か？初プレイで2台もハイスコアに名前入れるなんて、とんでもない実力だぜ。
ちっちっち4台の間違いだよケイちゃん。こういうのはセンスと勘、そして動体視力がものを言うのさ。
Get it together, KG.
普段の鍛錬を怠らなかった成果だよ。むしろケイちゃんはアドバンテージをひっくり返されたことを恥と思うべきだね。
おいおい、ちょっと待てよ。エアホッケーの時とか、あれ何？なんて後ろを指さして顔を向けた瞬間打ち込んできたのは反則だろ？
It's kind of crazy that he fell for that, to be honest.
まったく。
勝てば官軍、負ければ賊軍だよ。
For the time being, it's alright if her well-being is a front. All I hope for is that someday this becomes real and she recovers her old cheerful self.
いやいや、それにしてもゲーセンも雰囲気が変わったよな。少し前ならタバコ臭くて暗いイメージだったけど、家族連れで遊びに来る人も結構いたからちょっと驚いたぜ。
そうだね。やっぱたまにはこういうのも楽しいよね。あ、今何時ぐらい
？5時くらいかな。
ああ、じゃあ夕食まであと少しだね。どこかで食べて帰る？
そうだな。ファーストフードでハンバーガーなんてどうだ？
おお、いいね。あ、その前にちょっと失礼。
Mion said that and stood up from the bench. I found it odd for a minute, but then I understood her intention and...
店にもトイレはあるぞ。
Instead of a reply, I had empty cans thrown at me. Mion stuck her tongue at me and left in a hurry. After I watched her retreating figure, I plopped back down on the bench and looked up at the sky. The sky was pure blue and crystal clear, and it felt amazing. Everything seemed to be glowing, bathed in the brilliant summer sun. It was a good thing we came here. Mion also seemed to show signs of recovery.
そうだな。なんなら今度はいっそ東京にでも誘ってみるか。
It would be cheaper if she stayed at our new place there, but I feel like our parents may be concerned for a while. We still needed some more time to go back to how it was.
そうなると泊まる場所も探しておかないとな。
I was already thinking about moving in.
あとは。
Why, hello there.
こんにちは。
いやー、ごめんケイちゃん。トイレ人いっぱいでさ。あ、結構待たせちゃったみたいだから飲み物買ってきた。どっちがいい？あれ、ケイちゃん寝ちゃったの？もうしょうがないな。女の子とのデート中に居眠りなんてエチケット違反だよ。ケイちゃん、もういつまで寝てるんだよ。ほら起きて。
But he just like
ケイ
died?
ちゃん、
He actually did. What the hell?
はっ、
You know, I'm glad I held my tongue, because here I was about to say, how is the bad end better than the intended end? I guess it still kind of was. I mean, like, Mion lives, I guess. There's more survivors, you know? I guess. Like I said, I think I mentioned this. I understand that that's, like, not really canon. I shouldn't, like, make any sweeping judgments or theories off of the bad end. Right? I just figured that we were here, and I might as well do it. So, I did. Why not? I really thought they were going to get to be happy, and I was like, oh, cool. That's cool. Right? No. Never meant to be. He just drops dead. Okay. Guess he had a heart attack. Sure. Okay. So let's talk about the chapter itself. I just watched the bad end. I don't know if I'm gonna push that after this. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna move things around or not. So if I do, then it might be after this. I don't know. Anyways, let's talk about the chapter as a whole. I already talked about like my thoughts on like I think this episode a lot, right? I thought this was another. Well, no, we'll just talk about the episode first. Let's not get hasty. We're already at like 3 hours, whatever, right? What's 3.5, right? Whatever. I should split this up, but I don't know. Probably won't. Anyways, so I mean, this episode was obviously a very big one. The conclusion of chapter 5. And so I think the big thing that I think we really got here, right, was we just, like I mentioned this earlier, and so I'm going to maybe go through it a little quick. We got to see that kind of like fragmented part of Shion, right? Like, it started when she killed Satoko, and it really, when she killed Keiichi, is when it kind of feels like there's two very distinct sides of her, like the normal Shion, and then the like the evil Shion, the demon, right? And I'm trying to think about how to say this that doesn't just feel like repeating exactly what I said earlier. I mean, a lot of this is the same kind of thing. So I probably will go through this quick. Yeah, like I said, we see those two sides of Shion. That was the big theme this episode, is there's that side of, like, that demon side, which is obviously doing all the killing, and then Satoko kind of gets through to her, Keiichi kind of gets through to her. She's told at the well that it wasn't actually... Oh, no, I mean, like, I already talked about all this. I mean, the conclusion itself, I mean, Shion just goes crazy. She's gone crazy at this point. If whatever we believe the demon was, whether it was just her mental state being that bad or it's an actual literal demon thing, right? Like, not of her control, it has really, really gotten bad. And she's compelled to murder Keiichi. And she tries to do so. And when she returns back to her apartment, she slips and dies. Seems kind of tough, because, I mean, one thing that I do want to point out is they mentioned that, like, she was, like, unconscious for a while and then, like, woke up. So, like, I would maybe need to look at that again. I don't think that... I don't know that it's super relevant. They briefly made it sound in the tip like they weren't sure. Like, let me just pull that tip back up. Is this one right here? No. It was not this one right here. This one.
ありがとうございます。今度フラワーロードで一杯おごりますよ。
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the timeline is basically what Oishi said. She sneaks out, stabs Keiichi, comes back, falls, is unconscious on the elevator housing for a while, and then she rolls off the roof eventually and hits the ground, which killed her. But as this was happening, she suddenly, like, returned back to her old self, and, I mean, you could tell the self-hatred she was feeling, like, lots of... Like, I shouldn't have been born. I'm sorry I was born. I'm sorry, everyone. Right? Like, acknowledging everything she did. Like, it was kind of hard. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mentioned that, like, in the moment. Especially, like, if this is, like, no matter what, that last moment of kind of tragic, like, self-reflection, I think is just kind of tragic. Even if she was just acting of her own free will and she's evil. Look, I'm not saying you gotta sympathize with her or you gotta even, like, you don't have to feel bad for her, but I kind of did, right? Like that last moment of like, wow, that was terrible. Like I'm back to my normal self. I can't believe I did all that. I'm sorry, everyone. Right? Like obviously it doesn't bring them back, right? And it's really not enough feeling bad. But I don't know. Like I said, maybe the characters I like, I'm a little too much like, no, I don't think they did wrong. Like I think maybe things weren't really of their will, right? Like that's kind of how I'm thinking, and so I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I don't. At the very least, she was dealt a rough hand in a lot of ways. Um, so I guess even if it was completely her fault, I kind of feel bad for her, given how rough of a hand she was dealt, right? And so that last self-reflection, where she kind of like I said, like, why was I born? I'm sorry, right? Nobody would have had to suffer if I wasn't born. I don't know. It hit me at least. Um, I wanted to have a little more analysis there. I thought that was a really good scene. I honestly, in retrospect, I really should have done the conclusion like this before I watched the bad end, because I feel like I don't remember all the finer points, which is exactly why I shouldn't have done this in the order I did it in. I can kind of go through it a little bit. I mean, it wasn't really that long. You can just kind of like... I guess I could have just chapter jumped and it would have done the same thing. I don't know, I'm just trying to remember like exactly the things she was saying. Yeah, I mean, just like... Yeah, I mean, like this right here. Like, a lot of these, I don't know, they're hard for me to... Like, it's hard. When in my life did I make the wrong choice? Like, as you lie dying. I mean, that's just, like, that's terrible. For me. For me. And obviously realizes that she failed to protect, like, Satoko. Like, she had the chance. Yeah, and I mean, she obviously knows what she did was wrong. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe not everyone feels bad for her. Like, Ryukishi himself... Ryukishi is a guy, right? I guess it doesn't matter. Ryukishi themselves, right, in the staff thing, like the staff room, said, you don't have to feel sympathy for her, and that's fair. But me personally, right now, in this moment, the way he wrote it, I feel sympathy for her, you know? I don't know. I can't help but really want an ending. I don't know. Despite this being such an obviously brutal visual novel, lots of murder, lots of death, lots of messed up things happening, I really want for our main crew of, you know, Keiichi, Rena, Mion, Shion, Rika, Satoko, I want them to all, and Satoshi, somehow, right? I want them to all get a happy ending, man. Seeing everything they go through like this really makes me want a happy ending. Like, you know, like, I don't know. I hate to see Shion like this. I want to see a scenario where she gets to be happy, right? Like, none of them really deserve this. Like, in this moment, maybe she deserves this, but, like, as a whole, the things that Shion had to go through, for example, she didn't really deserve that, you know? God. Okay, we'll skip this. Like I said, to me this is pretty good, and this kind of like, I'm taking this as like her like last dream, maybe even while she was unconscious, right? That one was hard. I mean, like, if she had, in her eyes, if she had just done that, maybe she would have gotten, you know, what she wanted, a happy life, right? Like, wouldn't have gone, things wouldn't have gone the way they did. So I guess we can kind of talk more about the chapter as a whole. This was, in my opinion, a fantastic chapter. I feel like I say this after basically every chapter when I play it, but this was probably my favorite one yet. I thought this was just it got into things really quick. Yet it like ramped up like crazy, right? Really quickly too. Which was crazy. It felt like there was, I don't know, to me the first few episodes I'm like that was really strong writing with Satoshi and his kind of his darkness in like that he had the like eventually the Watanagashi killing and his disappearance. I'm like, all of that 1982 I thought was really good. 1983 was bananas. And I think there's a few really important things that we gained from this chapter, questions that might have been answered, or some questions we maybe didn't even have. And I think the notable ones are, first of all, the first thing that comes to my mind is obviously the answer to who was running around in chapter 2, and it was Shion, right? We kind of, I mean, when we get some other answers, right? Potentially, but some other things that are really shown, the Mion Shion swap, that's a very notable. We'll see how much significance it has in the grand scheme of the plot, but you know, obviously strongly impacts both of their lives. All right, so quick little jump cut, because I was taking a really long time. I was kind of going on a massive like tangent. And what I was talking about were things that I think are maybe important. And then I realized that any theories that I don't have immediately, I shouldn't sit here and spend 30 minutes to an hour theorizing like as part of this video's conclusion. If I want to do a theory video again, I can do another theory video. That's a choice I can make. But I should just wrap this video up. But we will quickly say that what I was talking about was we were seeing the perspective of the someone who seemed to have the craziness, whatever that is. And I think there's some valuable things we'll be able to parse from that. What I was really looking at was, is this something that might have been caused by Takano still? Because I think the first time we really start to see her lose it to the demon, like Shion, was in 1982, the day that she... the day that she met Takano in the library. And then that was when like she chokes Mion, right? And then in 1983, the day that she starts to hear the footsteps is the day of the Watanagashi setup where she did meet with Takano, right? And so I think that's interesting, right? Like, I don't know. I think Takano theory is still on, like her somehow being what causes people to break like this. Whether it's something that maybe bordering on supernatural that only she can do, right, for whatever reason. Or, this is something that I think is possible, because I kind of mentioned this. It kind of feels like my time theory, like you get infected and you have 6 days, right? That's just wrong. Like, straight up, there's no reason to believe that at this point. Right, unless Shion herself just fights it super well, right? All things considered, then that doesn't really make a ton of sense to me at this point. Then why it kind of lines up in other places, I don't know. Maybe I need to take a look and see if it lines up as well as I thought. Maybe it doesn't really line up as well as I thought, and I was kind of reaching. But I do still think it's possible that, and I mentioned this as part of it, that part of what really triggers it is some strong emotional break. And I think maybe that is just the main cause, right? Like it very well could be, right? Or again, it's something only Takano can do. Like maybe she's like somehow getting a parasite into your ear, but that doesn't really make sense, because like why would she have needed to do that to Shion on 2 different occasions, right? Like maybe it's just something that a lot of Hinamizawans have, right? Or people that have been in the area that kind of get infected with it, and then they kind of resist the demon. They're like, no, I'm good, bro. It's not happening, right? Like, no, right? And then Takano starts to make them feel fear and paranoia and like feelings of that nature, and it maybe is what causes this craziness. And then and maybe it lets, if I think it's a parasite, maybe it kind of, once those negative emotions start to come in, it kind of starts to amplify them, and then they let it take over, right? Just an example as for a thought process for what it could be. But like I think the fact that Takano is maybe linked twice to Shion going crazy like that, it really kind of strengthens it being Takano. So I think that's really relevant, and that's one of the big things. And the other biggest thing to glean from this chapter is if you believe Mion at the end, which I do, then the Sonozakis are neither in charge of Satoshi's disappearance or apparently any of the cursed killings, which doesn't seem that far-fetched to me. It was kind of something I already believed. They would have been kind of too convenient a villain, for one, so that's kind of meta, right? If the villain they've been hyping up as like the Sonozakis run everything the whole time, it's like, it was the Sonozakis! It'd be like, oh wow, who saw this coming, right? Like, I don't know, right? That's a little meta, and I'm not saying that would have been bad writing, but like, from a meta perspective, if you're trying to write a surprising twist, it not being the Sonozakis makes more sense, right? And I think other candidates like Takano just make sense. Like, they make more sense to me, at least. So I don't know. I think my idea that it's Takano and not the Sonozakis is a lot stronger now, right? Which is interesting. That's one of the main things I got from this chapter. Like I said, it was that and potentially some of how the curse itself works. And then obviously a lot of finer details to chapter 2. We understand a lot better now. Oh, and the last big thing there's also things we still need to understand. Specifically the syringe. Right now, if you ask me, it is a cure that has a really weird side effect of making you want to scratch your throat out. Why? I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the way it cures you. That wouldn't really shock me. That's my best guess, at least. And that's why, like, I think they tried to restrain Keiichi when they gave it to him in chapter 1. Maybe Rika was trying to pin down Shion's arms so that she wouldn't claw her own throat out, right? Like, I think that's another big question. So there's some things that have been answered, some things that feel like we got more evidence for them, and then there's some things that I'm like, I don't know. Like, you arguably you almost made it more confusing. I don't know, though. Like I said, it still mostly fits with my ideas, because at the end of the day, Toмотake always clawed his own throat out and was injected with the drug, right? Like, it feels like they made that clear. So, I mean, this was always something we knew it did, right? Like, it was just seeing it was so weird, right? Like, that is what it does. Like, it seriously does that. Crazy. But anyways, I think that's a lot of my thoughts on what this chapter is, and like what was important about this chapter. And I kind of already talked about this chapter, like what it was, like a lot of my thoughts on it. I mean, we can maybe briefly talk about like my thoughts on the writing. I thought this was a really well written chapter. Like, I don't know, I really liked Shion's arc. Again, I don't think this is an arc that you have to enjoy. I can get why people don't like it. But that idea that she loved someone, she lost them, she grieved, but I mean, she was young, right? She didn't really know how to get over this. And eventually, I mean, eventually she kind of snapped, right? Like, she thought she was fully over it, but her sadness turned to anger, and she felt like she felt the need to get revenge, right? Eventually, and especially because at this point, it was not only was she feeling stronger regarding Satoshi, she felt really paranoid, right? That I think something was going to happen to her when, like, in the CG where Mion, like, has her by the collar up against a wall, she's probably really worried that something's going to happen to her, right? Like, that they're going to do the same thing that happened to Satoshi, right? It doesn't ever feel like something she explicitly says is, like, I was, like, just scared, right? But I still think that's true, right? And then it really snowballed out of control once she kind of got into things. She was like, well, I let the demon take control at this point. Might as well go get revenge, right? And then she does all this to kind of, try to get revenge, to maybe, like, quell that hatred, right? Like, and she kind of, like, at the end, like, I don't know, I just love that at the end she's like, this isn't even what Satoshi would have wanted. Like, that was terrible. Like, and it was hard to see her breakdown there at the end, but I thought it was really good, and I thought Shion's arc was really good. I really enjoyed having Shion as the main character. I have no clue who the next main character is. We might just be back to Keiichi. We might be going to someone crazy like Rika or Rena. I don't know. I literally do not have a clue. Like seriously, none. So I'm really curious to see what Chapter 6 is going to have for me. I assume it's going to be a follow-up to Chapter 1 or 3. If I had to pick between the two, I'm guessing they would start with Chapter 1. Because that one doesn't have the Great Disaster. The Great Disaster feels like Chapter 7 to me. If I had to guess, they're going to go 2, 1, 3. But I don't know. Maybe maybe Chapter 1's answers are just like straight up, what is the craziness, what is the drug, right? And once you kind of figure those things out, like maybe those are Chapter 7 revelations, and so Chapter 1 has to be Chapter 7, like in terms of equivalence. But like either way, I'm really interested to see Chapter 6 and where it's going to go. I'm still really enjoying Higurashi When They Cry. I'm super glad to be back. I think there's a good chance I take a few days away from the game. But I'm sure sometime next week I'll be back to recording. Whenever that is, this has already been a long episode. Goodness. I definitely don't want to keep you guys any longer. So I know it was a lot of talk about the chapter itself. I feel like it was a lot of yap. I don't know. It's kind of late, like I said. I think at some point it's kind of late. So I feel like I kind of went about in circles. So sorry if the conclusion was kind of terrible. The TLDR is that I really enjoyed this chapter. I thought it was really good. Shion's arc was really good. It answered some of my questions. It maybe answered some more. Maybe set up some more, honestly. Alright, that's going to be all for this episode. Like I said, I hope you guys are looking forward to Chapter 6. It'll probably be out sometime like next week. I'll probably take a few days away from the game. But man, I loved this chapter, and so I can only imagine I'm going to jump right back in here soon enough, and maybe we'll pump out content again. Maybe the plan is to just... Maybe the move for me is just kind of binge a chapter, step away for a few days, and keep it going. I feel like the fact that I kind of got it going and just kept it going, I just kept that momentum, right? Like, it was easier rather than being like, I play every other day, right? Like, when it was just, we're just going to play, like, as much as I want, like, which is a lot, by the way, right? And that's how I've always been, to be clear. I usually try to keep myself from overdoing things. I don't know if anyone remembers the Steins Gate or Fate days. If you do, shout out to you, by the way, for being here that long. That's awesome. But if you remember those, I'd have days where I'm like, this is my third or fourth episode of the day, right? That's just how I used to record. And I would just get ahead. And I'm like, honestly, I think that's better. I think it's better to just for me to get ahead because I can kind of keep that momentum. So maybe if we're lucky, we'll get to Chapter 6 and we'll just I'll kind of cruise through it and then upload it all pretty quick. And then take another break like that. But we'll see. But until I start Chapter 6, like I said, might be a few days. Whenever I start that, I hope to see you guys there. But until then, peace.